West, y'all.
Give it up for Larry.
Oh, that's a bit of a story, isn't it? Larry.
Didn't even come in your leather jacket like that again.
And your bandana.
What's the story about Larry?
Oh, this guy. Fucking.
Yeah, tell the story. Tell the
No,
story about Larry.
it's a Felitti story.
Oh.
It's a story that he always brings up.
Man,
Hey,
you know what
it
this
was
guy
in-
is?
it
Start
was
us off,
in- it
Sid.
was-
Start
it
us
was
off.
in your area.
This guy here, like, you know, when I was in high school, man, this is the guy I used to look up to, man. Had the Carlos Spencer legs, the calves, king lele. Tried everything 100%, eh? When I mean he gives everything 100%, even when he supports, eh? So we used to go up to this karaoke bar, and this guy used to always buy just always, like, you know, it's just me and you who's gonna fill the table up with drinks. This one afternoon, the karaoke was on, and this Kamalo walked in. He had a, like, black t-shirt, black leather vest, black jacket. Like, you know, on Terminator, Arnold goes into the bar, looks at that dude. He literally had that, man. And he had a black bandana on. Fucking, he was just walking around like, you know, trying to make a connection with whoever was there. And because he saw this dude, he just did the eyebrows and chip. And then he walked over, like, fuck. You know, he offered him a drink. Then he was like, oh, you guys gonna sing? I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe later. And then, you know, you write down your karaoke songs. You write your karaoke
Very
songs.
gangster looking, though.
Yeah, he wasn't
He was
something
very
like-
gangster looking, like maybe from an old mongrel mob looking
Yeah,
type
yeah,
person.
yeah.
And that's okay, sweet. Just keep it real.
Yeah. So this guy came over. I didn't even know who he was, but I just, oh shit, he made the connection with this dude. Okay, do you know him? Because in my head I was like, fuck, did he come on a Harley or something? Yeah, mate. Like, so he came over, they offered him a drink. He's all, yeah, we started writing down his karaoke songs, man. And I was like, bro, this guy's keen, eh? And it wasn't even 10 minutes into the night. And then the host, all right, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. That's when we found out his name. Yeah. It's Larry. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Larry. Man, this Kamalo took his leather jacket off. And even when he walked up there, I could hear the Terminator music like that. He goes up. He's standing there. So where Elliot is right now, that's where Larry was. We were probably where the fridge was. Like, you know, full table full of drinks. And then the music starts. You know, of what songs this guy was gonna sing? Like, you think he's gonna sing an Ingle song, UB40 song, like a Eddie Lovin song. Fucking then you hear the ding 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 ding. Fuck, he sings Spice Girl songs. What? And then we were like,
Oh, the slow one.
That's Fever Forever.
Viva Forever. And the way he's laughing, that's exactly how he was laughing, man. But like, microphone now, I was so embarrassed, but I was also scared, you know, because this guy was just cracking up. Hey, even the host had to like try and stop laughing, because all we could hear is this guy laughing, man, over the music. I was embarrassed and scared at the same time.
Which karaoke bar was it?
Fusty Rooster.
Oh, just up there in Clinton.
Dean, yeah, that was our local.
Yeah.
It's our local, man. But shout out to Larry, man. Fuck. That's the never take face value, eh? Fuck.
But this guy will always say, you know, there's a karaoke night somewhere, and we'll go to karaoke, and this guy will always sing and put a song up. Unfortunately, he didn't make a lot. Because there were some really good singers, eh? And I think it was coming up to the finals when everybody was coming together. Yeah, and then I was like, "No, go support the brother again." Yeah, I mean, you gotta have a chance next time. So anyway, we went to this. I think it was the really last one. And then, I said, "No, you must have it." There was hardly anybody there. Yeah, but there was only one person there that was there.
Sad, man.
This person was in a wheelchair. Nothing against the wheelchair. I said, "Man, you're definitely gonna make finals." Yeah, but yeah, he made finals.
But we just simply go because if you participate, they'll take top 4, and if you make the top 4, you get a bar tab, eh?
Yeah.
So we get a bar tab. So we just go, yeah. But we were doing it for years, eh? That's all.
Oh, did you guys frequent that karaoke?
We only went to like 2.
Oh, there was one in
Henderson.
Legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, one in Legend, and the one up at the Rooster.
Yeah.
But yeah, my stage name was Fred. It's my stage name, eh?
What was
And,
your go-to song? What was your go-to song?
Oh, Shake You Down, man. All the old school, those sort of slow jams. Shake You Down and oh yeah, but we used to simply go in for the fact of like hearing songs on like the breeze, and like you always wanted to know the words of the song. That was pretty much the reason why I used to go in karaoke, like Meatloaf songs, stuff like that. Yeah,
Man, I remember because I did the karaoke thing late, eh? Because my karaoke bar was Opal. Did you ever get it?
Oh yeah. On
Kara?
Kara, yeah.
Yeah, but that was late when there was. I think it was after Bars of Stars because I knew Bars of Stars, but never went there. I know my sister went there all the time. I know a lot of people went there, but I never went there. Did you guys go there?
I went once with my cousin who took me clubbing like when I was underage. But yeah, that was pretty cool, man. He got up and sung Too Close, but they sounded Kaya. There was about 5 of them on the stage, but everyone was just dancing because the music.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, man, that's pretty cool, man. I think that's probably why my taste of karaoke sort of, was there because of my cousin. I mean, shout out to Moana, man.
The good thing about Opal was it was small, and if you went there, if you got drunk enough, you just didn't care. Because I'm that kind of karaoke guy that I need to be drunk to jump up on stage.
That'd be the only time when I jump, but I had to be with someone else. Yeah.
Yeah.
It never sounds the same when you're singing in the car.
Yeah, but are you looking at the reaction at the crowd first, or are you looking at the screen? We start doing the just lip syncing.
But then I knew the trick to always sing a fast song, because everyone will get into the song itself because it's fast. If you sing a slow song, everyone's gonna stop and watch and try to relax to your voice.
Man, you're bringing up some crack up memories, man. Remember that time that lady tried to sing "Rolling on a River"?
Yeah.
Again, this guy, because he happens to be standing at the bar, like where she's singing the bars right there, and like you hear the Tina Turner version, how it's just like ding 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 ding, and it's just full on. But they changed the wrong version. But they try attempting to sing the song. It's like everyone else is singing at the bar, but the person who's actually got the mic can't keep up.
Because they played a faster version. I'll never forget it. Because she couldn't keep up with the song. And so every time she was behind, I just laughed. Like,
these are these Filipinos, Filipinos that come and do a choreography to the song, Because she was standing there, confident as it, clicking. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
With the music kicked in.
Started kicking in. And I was like, man. Yeah.
But
so I try and stay away where I can. Yeah. Otherwise, I just start cracking out. My sister and I are the same. We laugh loud. We don't really, not that we don't care, but it's just our normal. Good times.
Yeah, no, they were good times there. So Elliot, how was your week been?
Oh, pretty stressful. This week it hasn't been too bad, but we're just in a financial year at the moment. Oh yeah. Yeah, and then the previous 2 to 3 weeks has been like hectic. Yeah, it's a bit of an emotional reaction to some of the stuff at work. It's just that I've been in the business for the same business for like 17 years, over 17 years. And when you know so much about the business and there's people in the business that they got these ideas, they push for things, but you just know there's so much more to do. And so, the pressure of a financial year, of how we're performing can have an impact on a lot of people that don't know much about the business. They just think about their own stuff and what they need to do, but you end up picking up a lot of the pieces. Oh, yeah. And then people just start dumping shit on you because, one, you've been there long enough, but they rely on you, which is something that's quite common, especially for myself. I try and help as many people as we can, to continue to grow and, and support the business as much as we can. Primarily because of the people that I care about in my team. They deserve a lot of the support, and that's where a lot of my passion comes from. yeah, just ensure that our people are well looked after.
So what a business is this?
So we're primarily a technology sales base.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
we sell like photocopiers, and you would have had Zane on here
Yeah,
a couple of weeks ago or a month ago. So yeah, he's in our sales team.
right.
But yeah, I do a lot of the internal stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Is that with Fuji?
Fuji, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Because when Zane came on, because I didn't know about the trouble Fuji had with that whole sales thing.
Yeah.
What was it called? It was like they were using money they shouldn't have used,
Yeah.
and they got in trouble. They lost the contract. They had a big contract with the government. Was that right? And then, but they've got it back now. So after that, the court case and all that kind of stuff.
So
It's
yeah, we
all-
went through like a suspension, and so we went through quite a few years. So a lot of our contracts had to go through a government process that we need to do, like an auditing process. So to ensure that all our ducks in a row, that what we do, and that kind of stuff. So that was tough. That was really tough, especially for us, where that was, we say, performing really well, to now being, there's a lot of restrictions on what we can do. And it was a good way of doing things, because it just means that, we had to look after our customers as well. And we needed to restore faith back into our customers, but also our staff as well, because we lost a lot of staff to it. We didn't have the money to continue to do what we needed to do, and so the shareholders had to top us up and all that kind of stuff, just to keep us moving and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things that we learned.
Yeah, it's pretty good that you won the government contract back,
Yeah.
because something as bad as publicized as what happened.
Yeah.
Like losing the government contract and then getting it again. It must have been because there's other competition out there for you guys, right?
Oh yeah,
There's-
Yeah, it's a shitload, eh? Because
Yeah.
I remember I telling you about, was it Ryobi or
Rico
and
and
that,
Canon. It just gives them an opportunity also to because we had such a longer process of what we needed to do, whereas others could maybe do something a lot faster or something that we used to do similar.
So was it because you guys were? So is it about you guys processes that got you back into that contract with government? Or is the government just, man, we're sad that happened and we're disappointed, but you guys gotta get back and so we can get back to business.
Yeah, we're definitely back into business. I mean, we still got a good product that's out there and stuff like that. We still got good people that are still working. I think that's one of the most important things as well. Is our customers still have faith in us. Although we have a brand, we're also going to show them that as people, we're still there. And those they're part of the scandal or anything like that, the majority of those people have been dealt with. But we can't look back on it and continue to work on that kind of stuff. We have teams they're going through all the legal stuff and that kind of stuff. But as employees of Fuji, we have to continue to service our customers, and also we have to maintain our lives of what we have as well, ensuring that our people continue to work to provide for their families and that kind of stuff. So that's one of the key things that I sort of took away in the last maybe 7 years, is that whatever happened has happened. What do we do moving forward?
So how long have you been? You've been here for a while now.
Yeah, so just over 17 years.
Wow.
Yeah. I didn't think I was going to be there that long. I also always had a goal to do 5 years maximum.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but they looked after me really well.
Right.
I was looked after. I've gone through so many different leaderships,
Yeah.
and I've learned quite a bit, and also about myself as well and what I can do. But yeah, I had a bit of a scary moment when I first started at Fuji.
Oh, what was it?
So when I first started, I wasn't used to walking into a company that had a whole lot of European people or Pākehā people, and so as a Maori, it's something that I was always had in the back of my head that we weren't good enough, and especially when I was at high school, I wasn't in touch with my Maori side, and so I always saw Pākehā people being the most successful people in the world. And they were always had primary roles, whichever role they had, there was always them. And so to get anywhere near them, it's almost, I felt like you have to be like them in order to be noticed or in order to be successful. in order to help ourselves, to be honest. And so I had to look at myself. I was like, well, there's so many people that you can rely on, but you have to make sure that you're right first. And so I got into a space where I have to defend myself and make sure that what I can do, I can bring to others. But yeah, it took me years. I've experienced quite a few. I don't like to use this, but racism, and whether it be a perception of me holding that, like what Maori, what I think people think of us as Maori, will always be in the back of my head. And so, even though I have a background of a Cook Island side, I would use my Cook Island side or an island side to defer if people wanted to talk about Maori stuff. So I would always think, I'll go to my island side, or I'm around island people, so I'm, that kind of way.
What would you do that for? What was the thinking around that?
Because I thought people just saw Maori people as activists.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So you saw the flag, you saw the tiriti of Waitangi, when it came to, tiriti that you just saw on the news is all the bad shit that happens. And what we weren't educated about is what our partnership with the Crown was. And I only really got into it when Rawiri Waititi started, talking a bit more, and I started following him a bit more. The previous Maori MPs that have been in there, I felt like they're just there because they got a role. There's a portfolio that's in there, and so therefore that's their role. But he's probably one of the most political person that I've actually really gravitated towards, because I started learning a bit more about our partnership, and he talked about a bit more about it, that kind of stuff. So I started adopting a bit more of that and talking about it in front of people a lot more. And so I wish I had this earlier, I wish I understood it a bit earlier, but also I think that if we were educated rather than just ticking the box and say we've done our subject and we're now moving on to another subject, and then I'm not against we're making things permanent for Māori. I just think that we just weren't educated enough, or we chose not to. In my case, I chose not to because I was afraid of what people thought of me or of Māori people. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing that holds us back as people, like the thought that what other people think. Yeah. That's a major. Hey. Yeah. Like, I don't know if we just continue forward by don't care what other people think. Yeah. Well, whatever's good for yourself and your family, that should be the way we should be. Yeah. That should be the way forward. Yeah.
But I definitely wanted to have a more of a Pākehā mindset, because how.
Because there was only Pākehās around you at work.
Definitely at work, and I got a shock when I went to Fuji, and then I had dreadlocks. I had dreadlocks then, but I dressed up like make sure I was appropriate to apply for this role, and then I applied for a role that I didn't even get, purely because they thought, oh, nah, I don't think you're suited for this admin role. I think you're suited for this other role. And I was thinking, man, why would you switch me right on the day that I started my job? And they said, oh, I think.
Oh, without any like looking into what you're good at for this job or that job.
Yeah.
And they just put you in.
They just So they had this other lady who applied for my current role.
Yeah.
And then they just switched us. I was like, because I remember meeting the two managers of each, and I said, man, the manager that I was applying for was a Sri Lankan lady, she seemed pretty cool. I gravitated towards her because she seemed to be a bit nice. So I thought, okay, sweet. And then my boss then was an older European fella, and he looked like an old, like grumpy ass person. I was thinking, man, I don't want to work for him. He's too scary, But they had their own internal ideas of who they preferred to be in their team. So, yeah. So my first 90 days was the worst experience I ever had.
When you mentioned you experienced racism, like a lot of it is that what you just described, putting yourself in the box, but a lot of it is us not realizing it.
Yeah.
just thinking, oh, okay, just go with the flow. You know, we're like that, eh?
Yeah.
I know I was like that when I was young.
We
You know?
tend to accept it.
Yeah, but accepting that, knowing that something's up with that, but just ignoring it, or
Yeah.
being, oh, like we just shrug our shoulders, eh?
Yeah.
When something like that happens, and then it's not until later along in life is that that's racist.
Yeah.
You know? Was that the kind of feeling you had at that time?
Definitely the feeling I got. I said, because it's people can deal with a male version of what's required in this team, whereas the person that applied for other role, later on I found out that she's not really suited for this role. I am suited for this role, and that kind of stuff. But I knew the perception was it's because maybe I'm more vocal in what I can do versus someone who's
Just
more
passive.
transactional type thing. And I just, in my first week at Xerox, they they told me that my new role was going to look after the South Island areas and stuff like that. And my first week, didn't really get a lot of training, and they said, you're going to go down to the South Island. Never been to the South Island. And you're going to travel around the South Island. You're going to meet all the managers, sales managers, you know, and it was all Pākehā people. And my first experience turning up was
With dreads.
with dreads. The operational manager's like, oh, you brought a big suitcase. You know, business people have those little cases, you know, they're just this real small. And I, you know, as if I'm going on holiday, I had a massive one plus the backpack, you know, so I was like, oh, he goes, oh, I didn't really plan to have room in the car for your suitcase, but we'll just make it fit. I was like, okay then. And so I met the first manager, Nelson, just grumpy as, you know, and they're just like, man, Pākehā people again, I've never known how to deal with managers and that kind of stuff. So it was okay. It wasn't too bad. And then I had to drive with the same manager down from Nelson down to Christchurch.
Yeah.
And we didn't really talk. I didn't have anything common to talk about to this fella. And but yeah, it was nerve-wracking.
How come you had to drive down? Why couldn't they fly you guys down?
No, he wanted me to find out. I'd see how the country is. So looking at people where they have to travel, sales have to travel, and have a bit of understanding of what they have to do out in the field and that kind of stuff. But man, we got to Kaikoura, and then we were like, oh, how far are we away from Christchurch? And then I fell asleep. And he said to me, oh, did you just nod off? And I said, yeah, sorry. He goes, I don't expect you to go to sleep. I need you to stay up. I was like, fuck. Okay, cool. And then we got to Christchurch.
Yeah.
And then I told him where I was staying. It was at the Heritage Hotel. And he went to drop me off at this motel. And I was like, oh, it doesn't say Heritage. And I grabbed and I said, oh, I'm staying at the Heritage. And he goes, no, we don't put you up in at the Heritage. And I said, oh, this is my form where I'm going to stay. He goes, oh, okay. Normally you wouldn't be there, but okay, if that's what you've got.
Hey,
then
this guy.
And I was just like, man. And my experience started getting a lot worse.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, man, what have I got myself into? You know? And then, so he dropped me off at the Heritage, but he didn't drop me off he goes, oh, you just hop out here and just walk here. I was like, okay, that's cool. With my with my suitcase and everything, just walking in and that kind of stuff. And, you know, my experience of, I didn't have a credit card, you know, to swipe in and stuff like that. I just had a form say, look, I'm staying here. But I did have a credit card, but I didn't want to use it because I didn't know if I was going to get charged. So I just said, no, I don't have a credit card. Then I said, oh, we need to bill you. And
Bill you?
Yeah, just like, you know, if you sign in, they have to charge you, you know, as a deposit. So that's okay, that's cool. And so I said, oh, can I just give my card or give you cash? So that was all sweet. That was all done. And I just stayed in. And I was thinking, man, it doesn't say if I can order food. And I was like, oh. So I rang that manager and I said to him, oh, do I book the food on here? Because, oh, no, normally you go out and get your own food.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, then that's cool. So I was buying my own food and that kind of stuff, but I just didn't want to buy it because I didn't know what to do. And I was in Christchurch for 3 days because I was taking over a guy from in Christchurch, and he was just, and then I met him, and there's a real bogan dude. And he goes, oh, so you're the guy that's come to take over my job. And I said, oh, yeah. He goes, oh, I manage the warehouse, plus I look after this other area. And I was like, I'm not looking after the warehouse.
Yeah.
He goes, no, you're responsible to look after the warehouse and the drivers. And I was like, shit, this wasn't in my job description.
Yeah.
He goes, you need to run it like this. And I said to him, I said, oh, can we go for lunch? You and I just have a bit of a chat. He goes, oh, yeah, I suppose so. And he just said to me, he's just like, yeah, the reason why I'm leaving is because I'm stressed about everything. I was like, oh man, this guy's just like adding more to the fight, I was like, okay, that's cool. So I just took it, whatever he was doing.
Yeah.
And then the sales manager for whole South Island said to me, oh, well, you're gonna meet all the sales reps, and I'll be in the boardroom at this time. So I go up there, sit in the boardroom by myself, waiting for everyone to come in. So everyone comes through into the boardroom, and I saw, oh, he looks like a brownie, And then I'm like, g'day, mate. I was like, oh, Australia? Okay, and then I was like, so everyone sat down, and there was a few people that they weren't able to sit down because there wasn't enough seat. And then the manager said to me, the seat's not for you. You can stand. And I was like, man, what kind of introduction is this?
Far, man.
So here's me standing back, and they just having their own sales meetings and everything like that.
Yeah.
And he just said to me, just before we finish, do you wanna say anything? Do you want to introduce yourself? And I said, why not introduce myself? In the beginning, who I was. I'm a guest. And I just told them, my background and stuff like that. And they go, okay, see ya. We're gonna carry on. You can go. I was like, oh, man, that's day one. 2 more days here. Then he tells me, oh, I'm gonna drive you down to Dunedin and then Queenstown. Man, 2 days there, just trying to find ways to connect with people. There was a few that I connected with, which was cool. But yeah, it was quite shallow though. I was like, cool. Okay, met a whole lot of Pākehā people. I'm gonna move on to meet more.
Yeah.
Got to Dunedin on day 4. Got into another boardroom straight away. Introduced myself, what I was doing, and they said, yeah, you're just another Aucklander coming down trying to take our job. I was like, oh, well, not really. I'm just here to try and support what I need to do and that kind of stuff. He goes, nah. And at that time, there was a managing director who was quite strict, and like people were scared of him, eh? And this guy who only just started in the company like a couple of months before I did, and he said to me, yeah, I asked you once. If I have to ask you the second time, the third time I go straight to the MD. And then I was like, what? This is it. That was it for me. I thought, okay, I'm just going to sit here and just listen. I rang my boss straight after that, and I said to her, look, this is the threat that I got. This is my experience down here. And I'm off to Queenstown, which I'm thinking that's going to be even worse,
It's like the deeper you go in the south, the
Yeah,
more
it's
racist.
it's just getting worse,
By that time, you're already on the oxygen level, and it's already the needle's down. Yeah.
And I just thinking, man, these people are so mean. I was like, oh man, I can't wait to get back to Auckland. All I could think about was getting back to Auckland. It was just crazy. And then, when he said that, that was it for me.
What was your boss's advice when you told that to your boss in
He
Auckland?
just gets, don't worry about it. Wait till you get back to Auckland. We'll sort it in. We'll sort it out. All right. Well, I'll just leave. And then I went to Queenstown, and they had this other manager who had a flash ass car. Haven't been in like a flash ass car. Anyway, he drove me from Dunedin to Queenstown, and I met this other guy who had no idea what I was doing there. And I was just like, this is just getting worse. And then he goes, oh, what time's your flight? And I said, it was at 3:00, and we were still in Queenstown, and I had like 2 hours to get there. And I said, I don't even know how to, reorganize my flight, any of that kind of stuff. Because the person who was an admin person back in Auckland was actually on leave. So do I take it out of my own money to fly back? So anyway, he goes, oh, I'm going to rush off, And he took us through like the fucking boardwalk to everything, and I was just thinking, and I look at the time, and I was like, man, I hope I make it back to Dunedin. And then the next, so it's overheating. His car was overheating. Do you know the first thing he said to me? He goes, do you know how to fix a car? And I said, I don't own a car. Just so I'd never owned a car. I catch public transport. Because I didn't know what to do. Because I think he just thought I know how to fix a car. And in some ways I was thinking maybe he thinks I steal cars, and maybe how to fix a car. So nah. So finally we got it. All it needed is a top up with water. So the radiator was overheating. So we just made it, my flight, man. I got back to Auckland. I felt like I was home. I was just like, man, how do I deal with going to work on Monday, tell them this is not the job. But anyway, I got back to Auckland and it was about 9 o'clock at night, and I phoned my boss's manager, who actually the one that hired me. And I told him about it, and he goes, don't rush to anything. It's just all new. So we'll sort it out on Monday. Yeah, and then I worked, and then I carried on working for 3 months, just to see if I can stick it out.
Was there any response about all your experience? Like the bad experience you had going down? Was there any response
So
from Auckland?
I shared it with some of my team members who have been there for years. So I listened to their conversations. And I thought maybe I can share a bit more of my experience with them.
Because were you thinking maybe you're not the only one that had this experience?
No, I thought I was the only one.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought I was the only one because there wasn't other brownies until I started moving around the business. And then I found there's a Samoan lady who's from the Yandel sisters who worked on our at reception. There was another Samoan lady who was working in like a billing team, and I was like, and then I saw the people in the warehouse. I said, there's a brown manager there too. I said maybe it's okay, but every time I went to the cafeteria, I would, sort of walk past them on purpose, even though the line's that way. But I would just like walk past them until if they said, hey, that kind of stuff. So I tried to mix in with them. But they had a manager who was also a bit of an asshole too. I was like, he's a bit mean to me. Didn't really acknowledge me and that kind of stuff. But the two ladies that I spoke to were really cool, lovely ladies. And we became really good friends, even though they're like in their 60s, but they were really good, that kind of stuff. So there's a bit of hope there.
Yeah.
I thought, maybe it's, it's not too bad, but yeah, as I just continued to work hard, and one thing that I remember is that person who said that I'll ask you once, I'll ask you twice, and this third time I'm going to go straight to the MD. That's stayed with me for such a long time, and I just said, this guy is going to hassle me constantly, because I'm going to be dealing with a lot of his stuff. So I said to myself, even though I don't like him as much, I'm going to do whatever I can to assist him. And we became really good friends.
Oh, really?
After a couple of months, because every time he asked for something, I would always say to him, look, I didn't have the answer, but can I come back to you, say, like in an hour? I would go and search and find out what I need to get from him. And I did that every time for him. And then after a couple of months, he was like, hey, bro, how are you? And I was like...
Changes.
Yeah. And I just I thought, and there was another rep who was also the same. Who was, I always looked up to this guy that he's a pommy, and he'll walk through and he'll talk to some of the other guys. And then I used to laugh the way because of his accent. And so he had a pommy accent. And then I would imitate him after to the guys in the team. And they would like laugh all the time every time I like try and talk like a pommy.
Yeah.
And so I would do that. And so people started laughing at what I was doing. And so I would continue to mock people or imitate people. And so every time someone would laugh and just like, that's where I was able to start connecting with a lot of people. And then that guy that I was just talking about earlier, I said, if I can get one person on board with me, what about if I did 95% of the business that I could do, that I could work with, to make not only my job easier, but to make it more fun, so that my experience that I've had is worth it. And so I continue to drive that at work is I get to know everybody.
Mm.
And so, this is where we're at now. Is like everybody relies on you now because you're so reliable. They trust what you do, But at a cost, it comes with time. But I've grown so much by learning a lot about people and that kind of stuff. So even though I did that for many, many years, say like 10 years, by growing to do like that, is that I needed to start thinking about the people that should be part of my journey as well. In particular, Pacific Islander Maori, because I've seen what I had. I think it's time for those people to also be part of how good we are.
Right.
And there was one guy who applied for one of our roles inside, and I thought. And I said, and this is within that 10 years, I said to my boss, because he asked me, so what do you think about this guy? I said, he's had a child, or there's a child on the way. And in this job, you had to work really long hours. And so, I was putting what I do and expectation on others. And I didn't want people to think that Maori and Pacific have all these children, they'd never have the dedication towards work. But knowing that we're such hard workers, we work so hard, but we don't say much. And that's what it was like at Fuji, is that we're so good in the background that we didn't really get that acknowledgement what other people got so easy. And so that was sort of tough, and that's why I sort of had that barrier as a protection to make sure that people didn't talk about my background or our culture, because it was just every time I thought about it, I'd just stay away.
So is it the thing that you separate personal from business at work?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't talk about my culture.
Yeah.
Well, I choose not to talk about my culture because I didn't want it to have an impact, of my work or what people would think of me. And so I would continue to do that all the time, just so that I could prove that I can do it without people judging me, because I had the skill and ability to do it, and I knew that I can get people on my side.
It's interesting you say that, because when it comes to a diversity in the workplace, that's a conflict, because I think that society is trying to push diversity in workplaces, but when it comes to business, personal, it's two separate things. And do you put the culture in the personal, or do you put the culture in the business?
Yeah.
With diversity, you're actually putting culture in the business.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because it's a lot of things are driven by money. It's like, does culture actually bring in money?
But I think what's happening in society, like you saw yesterday with the protests in Albert Park with the transgender thing, but there's all this background stuff happening of people believing in their rights and believing in certain things and oppress people, and you need to look at us more, and diversity comes into that in a way. So corporations are looking into that now.
Yeah.
Like if we're gonna offend certain groups now in society, then we can't do that in our business.
Yeah.
So now you're bringing in certain things, like now you're bringing in culture.
Now you bring in culture, and and then I start thinking, I say, oh man, this person's gonna someone's gonna bring up about this and that kind of stuff where it wasn't before.
Yeah.
Because it's something that people, it's like a taboo situation or a conversation to have. But yeah, I also think that what government is also doing is also bringing that in as well. So by bringing that in, you're actually creating something so that it becomes not just the norm, but for us to start creating a platform for actually making it a conversation that we can have. Because the thing that I have at Fuji is that a lot of, especially Pākehā people, will say to me, I can't believe you said that. Like I would say stuff, but in a joking way.
Yeah.
So everything that would be, just for an example, I would say to someone who's actually pregnant, and then I say, "Oh man, you've changed a lot," and they're like, "What do you mean?" And I said, even though they're pregnant, I know that they're pregnant. I said, "I seen you've been eating quite a bit. that kind of stuff. So, and we all go through that. It's a tough cycle we go through. But yeah, you should never be afraid to be fat. It'll be stuff like that, and and people just like can't believe I said, even though this person is pregnant, but people don't know that she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And then people were just like, oh my gosh. And then I'll tell this person, oh, you better tell them you're pregnant now. Yeah. It'd be just things like that. Just, just making things a bit more fun. But yeah, I crack jokes in a way that whatever's taboo, it should be able to be normalized.
Yeah.
But I use that as a way of how can I bring my culture into that as well, so that we can talk about that kind of stuff.
Because at the same time, how Polynesians, especially us, how we banter is different to how the white people do.
Yeah.
And with us, when we banter, it's funny and it's different to what the white people hear. When they hear it, sometimes they go, man, that's not funny, but that's like real extreme. But to us, it's like every day, like we can just get smart,
And that's what I try and bring.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't have to be only brown people can talk about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I create that kind of conversation, and then Pākehā people do say something like that, and I'll be like, oh, you shouldn't say shit like that. They'll be like, but you can. I said, yeah, I can, because it relates to me. What's your experience with it, And so I always talk about a bit more about experience, rather than perception, because perception can be quite bad.
Yeah.
It's something that, that I know that it's something that that's created me to not bring in my culture, because my perception of what people think is going to have an impact on why I won't move forward.
And who draws the line anyway? Who draws the line? You know what I mean? Like, if I say something, right, and someone hears it, and they come up to me and say, oh, excuse me, that wasn't appropriate. I heard what you said.
Yeah.
I wasn't killing you. I didn't kill anyone. Like, what was wrong? You had something, you had a problem with it.
Yeah.
Like, well, why does everybody else have to, you know what I mean? It's like, next minute, it's like standard. You can't say this anymore. Or you
It
can't.
comes down to however many more people bitch and complain about it. Like, say the topic was like the diverse, was it the gay and lesbian community? Like the example I used about the cake being in the lunchroom. It's to support the gay and lesbian community. But if you don't believe in that, are you gonna have a piece of cake? And then you give your opinion about it. Like, I got a gay brother. Hey, I would say it because I said I got a gay brother. But if you choose to eat the cake, but those aren't your belief, but you're still gonna have a piece of cake, are you gonna talk about it? And then they'll go, oh, actually, well, it says in the Bible, why are you eating the cake? It's like trying to shut that up, but then also listening to everyone else, because everyone's gonna have an opinion on it. It's trying to do it without, if it's just general conversation, like you're saying, normalize it. That's fun. That's cool. But when it starts to become that, oh, you offended them, or they took offense to what you just said.
But then again, we're trying to normalize something that makes sense anyway.
Yeah, true.
Like, something makes sense for hundreds of years. It's in the Bible. We grew up with it. And all of a sudden, it's not right to talk about it anymore. Why do we have to normalize what's already been normalized, for thousands of years?
Yeah.
That's what a sensitive is, man.
So back to your question about where do we draw the line?
Yeah. Where do we draw the line?
Where do you draw the line? For me, it's like, what is your reaction to something? Because as soon as you draw a line, that's it. You either become defensive of what the response is, or you start taking into account, well, okay, it's okay for me to do it, but it's not okay for you to do it. And
exactly.
As soon as you start creating a response that's quite negative, it's like, oh, okay, just have a think about it. What they're actually asking, and then maybe you just respond in a way it's like, oh, I hear what you're saying. I acknowledge what you're saying. I said maybe I did take the wrong approach to the way I've said it, but my intentions were different. And it can always turn out to be a bit different to what what you're actually saying and that kind of stuff. So I try not to draw lines and stuff like that. I hope we don't do that, because then you start creating policies. And when we don't understand policies, like these policies that people create are so massive that our people struggle, because there's a lot of big words that we won't even take into account that are in there, there are guidelines that frustrate people because we can't be just normal people, you know. And sometimes I say this to my team. I say, man, you're all adults. We're not here to babysit you and any of that kind of stuff. Just use your common sense, you know, and try and move on and move forward and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's just my thing about drawing the lines, that kind of stuff. Because I've experienced quite a bit where those changes happen. So, for instance, like the one with the scandal and that kind of stuff. We've gone through so many guidelines that, man, it can drive people out of the business. You know, and it just can have a mental effect on people.
Well, that's a good example for government, when government gets too strong.
Yeah.
When things happen in society where the people look to the government to do something about it, and the next minute they're going to make these laws. That's going to affect the whole country, but that doesn't necessarily affect like 40% or maybe even 60% of the country. You know.
Yeah. Well, it feels like the fixing something that was never broken. It was just a miscommunication. You know, and it was like simple things that like just maybe the message was not delivered clear enough, or you know, it was just misinterpreted. Because a lot of that stuff's happening everywhere.
I mean, we shouldn't, like, my opinion, like, we shouldn't be looking at the government for every little thing. Otherwise we're not going to be free, you know, and we end up not allowed to do a lot of stuff, like some common sense stuff, you know, and but that comes down to education too. Like, if we're going to teach the kids these days how to live life in the future, like, what are the obstacles going to be? What are the natural obstacles going to be? You know, not obstacles that we say, we better avoid this sort of thing because, you know what I mean? Like, there's obstacles in life, right? But if we teach kids to avoid them rather than face them, because I think that's what's happening right now. We're teaching kids to avoid stuff that's naturally going to happen anyway. You know, I think that's bad.
Yeah, because I grew up with people in my life. The strongest people, the influence people in my life have been females, and I talk about quite a bit in my family and all that kind of stuff. Like, my grandmother is the biggest staunch person for me to stay really strong within yourself and fight for yourself, and make sure you look after one another. And then I've got my mum and my aunties who have a bit of what my grandmother has, and they work hard, and they're the foundation of our family. So I always look towards them because they're brothers. They're all like trades. They had the trades and all that kind of stuff, but they drank a lot too, you know, and that kind of stuff. So it was like the manhood thing, you know, it's like, I work hard, I deserve that kind of stuff, which is all cool and stuff like that. But then I started seeing how grounded my mum and her siblings were. They worked in the corporate environment, and that's who I inspired to be, because they will work every day. They had money every day to support. And whereas my uncles had the trade, and I used to think about, these guys are not going to work because it's raining. And so there was always an excuse. So I saw that as, man, they're not making money, but my mum and her siblings continue to work in an environment where they have annual leave. They can continue to work, and that's, for me, that's success. And so I gravitated towards that way. But I love carpentry. Carpentry was my favorite at school, and I did really well. And then so that's what I wanted to do. And we had a strong background, especially on my grandfather's side, in carpentry. So I really wanted to do that. That was my passion to leave school, but also join the police force. So those are the two things I wanted to do. But I wanted to make sure that I had a job that I could look after my family as well. And so corporate life is where I wanted to be. And so that's where I sort of went to. And and that's what I've done all my life now.
You said you worked there 17 years, so that takes us to 2006, around about 2005, 2006?
2006, yeah.
2006. So what have you seen working in the corporate environment? Like, at the beginning, it's different automatically, and how you grew, like the first 5 years, like understanding the difference between corporate world and home life, and, you know, personal and business. Because for me, because I work in corporate as well, and I didn't really learn it until maybe 10 years I was in.
Yeah.
Like I just treated it like a
Like a job.
9 to 5.
Yeah.
But not actually getting into the nitty and gritty of what the culture's like and all
Yeah.
that. Like I just thought, a bunch of white people, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I just go work and go home, sort of thing. But
Yeah.
now I understand, especially the business part of it, especially the don't take anything personal, that part of it, because when I realized that, because there was a time when I remember there was a part of the job where I got emotional because I got too wound up with another person in the industry, and I had to deal with over the phone and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was funny because I got so emotional about it, it just got heated. This kind of transaction got really heated, and it lasted for a whole week. So it was bad blood between me and this other person. And then when it got too much, I finally talked to my boss about it. He just sat me down and goes, Cam, look, blah, blah, blah. All you gotta do is blah, 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 blah. And he just made it so simple. Yeah. I just thought, oh yeah, true. I had nothing to be, if I just stuck to the process, it's that sort of thing that he sat me down and put me through I just read the email. What does the email say? The first email and blah, blah, blah. And just, this is what you have to do. And this is what you have to do. Why'd you have to get mad and do all this other shit? And it's got nothing to do with the business. It's got nothing to do with what you're doing. It's got nothing at all. You two just made a big deal out of nothing, and you made it so big that you're wasting money. It's like, oh shit. Like,
But is that the trade off because it's not people to people and it's via email?
oh, it was the email first. It was an instruction. It was an instruction first, and it was a hopeless instruction. It was like something that fuck, who can do this shit? Like,
Yeah.
But it was just a simple thing. Like I just misunderstood the instruction in the first place, and it just got big and big. And then at the end of it, it was like, man, you're just wasting time. Like it's so simple. Just and my boss told me, like, see what you got to do this, and that's what you have to do. Why do you have to do all this other shit for? And oh yeah. I finally saw it, but then the lesson for me was don't take anything personal, man. It's like business. Like every business has a process. For every conflict that happens at work, everything that goes on site at the work office, like whatever stage the project is at, there's always a process on how to get out of things.
Yeah.
Just stick to it.
Yeah.
And just keep things simple. If you get a question, just break down the question and keep things simple. Go bam, 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 and that's all you need to do.
Yeah.
Just step 1, step 2, step 3. That's it. Do it, and then let it go because it's already done.
Yeah. And that's leadership.
Yeah.
It's so that's something that I learnt a bit more about, and it's something that I wish I even had it even a lot earlier in stages.
Oh, you're telling me,
like
man.
that.
I was
And
that was a good listen.
so if we had that a lot earlier, everything would have been different. Like our approach would have been different. And maybe that's an emotional reaction because we believe in the hard work that we put in.
Yeah.
So then it becomes something really small can trigger off saying like, man, I worked my ass off into doing all this kind of stuff. I got to there, and something so small, like he was saying, has triggered you to do that kind of stuff. And that's passion of what we do. We're so passionate about the work we do, the hours that we put in, and that's just, I think that's natural for us. Whereas same thing, I heard it from someone else. It's like, why do you come to work and take it personally? Just believe in what you do, and then that's it.
Yeah.
That's just business. Exactly, what I was told, and I said, yeah. Then I walk away and say, yeah, he's right.
Yeah, and that's what it means to me. Like
Yeah.
that was a turning point in my sort of working life at this job because I understood after that. Like everything that goes wrong, goes wrong, but everything that happens that I remember that conversation with my boss all the time because it helps me figure it out. Like, there's nothing to worry about. No one's after you. No one here is like wants you dead. No one here wants you fired. Like, they just got their process. You got our process. We got our process. Stick to the process. We'll sort things out. Like, don't get angry when you don't have to be.
Yeah, and I think one of you said that you're just a number, and I'm just thinking, absolutely, we're just a number. You could be replaced, and that kind of stuff. And then I thought, you're right. And I walk away and I think about it. I said, so we've put all this effort in, and someone come up with an answer someone suggested you're just a number. I'm just thinking, man, if I thought like that, that means I don't care about the other stuff that I've done, you know. And my current boss said to me, you know, I sort of put a timeline on what I was going to do for my current job, and then I was just going to hand it over. And then I made a promise to one of my team members that I'll stay on a little bit longer. And my boss goes, why don't you just leave? You know, and I said, and I was straight up and I said, I don't want to leave because of just the job. I want to leave knowing that I've done everything that I have, but I haven't done it all. And he goes, what do you mean by that? And I said, I have loyalty to the people in my team that ask for my support and that kind of stuff. And he goes, I don't understand why you have loyalty to people. I said, that's just me. I said, I'm a people person. I work with people, and that's what made the success that we are right now. It's because people believed in you and you supported them. And then primarily these people that I'm staying on for are Pacific people.
Yeah, but that's
And
like a life reward, dude. That's like a life reward. Like that's beautiful, bro. And that shows your heart. That shows your character. Like even in leadership, because yeah, I've been put in that position. I've been put in that position where it questions your integrity, your principle, and the way you care about stuff. Like example was like, you know, a guy had held his own station for more than 11 months, and the company wasn't willing to give him my job. Yet they wanted me to go tell him that if he can train the guy who's applied for his position, like, you know, like I said, nah, fuck that. I don't have the heart to do that, you know. And then I ended up stepping down from that role, but because, you know, you got a heart first, you know, you're human first before anything else. But that, yeah, I mean, opportunities come and go away, like time and that you can't buy back. You know, you can always go back and you can go and look for the dollar anywhere. But yeah, you encouraging that is like, that's massive, man, because there needs to be more of that. If anything, I think if you work for a corporation, you don't believe in growing people, eventually the challenges ain't there anymore for them. You know, they're not testing themselves, and then they don't value themselves doing what they do because they're just willing to be, oh sweet, that's good enough for me. And then when you get stuck in that frame of mind, later on when shit's the fan, that's the fuck help, or like, you know, no one's gonna have an answer for all that shit. And that's just something that, like, man, like Mona was on here and he was like talking about pressure on yourself. You know, if you can keep reminding yourself, man, you are a number, but looking at it in the terms of like, yeah, well, if I'm the number, should be the best at my job. Let someone else come and kick me out off my station. But until that happens, you know, it all starts with culture. I think within the workplace, if it's a good place to be, and that's what draws you to the job. It's not the actual job itself; it's the people in the job.
Yeah,
you can chase your career. Yeah, I've made it, but then the longevity of why you stay in the role is usually because of people.
People,
because that's the interest that everyone has. It's the one common interest. It's people.
And people that leave the business will always say that they don't miss the work; they miss the people.
Oh yeah,
you know, and that's the most that's one of the most common things that people do say to me. It's not because they've been given an opportunity or they've seeked an opportunity, but they will always say that, you know, we'll miss the people. And then I thought, man, if I did that to my people, then I've let them down. If I let them down, I've let myself down because I believe in them. And so we've got a few in our team that are just, they were almost pushed aside, or it was suggested that they don't need to be in this job anymore. And that was about just over a year and a half ago. But I knew the skill level that these people had. And I said, man, they haven't been exposed to what their full potential is. It's there, but people don't know how to utilize it. So when I was told that, would I consider looking after this team, I thought, man, the workload is going to be massive. But there are people in there that I know that they can do the job and help me.
And they want to do the job, and they want to grow.
So that's I said, look, I'll do this job for 12 months. And then I spoke to 4 of these people, and I said to them, you know, my key responsibility is to do this, but also that I want people to see what your skill level is. And man, they are the top at their roles now. We wouldn't be as successful where we are, and I'm just talking about my team only, if we didn't expose their skills. And I talk about it all the time. I just continue to talk about their success and how as a team we've been successful, but also acknowledging that, you know, these Maori and Pacific people supported me through, you know, through us leading together. And that was the most important thing, is that as a leader, you one of the key things I always talk about is that you have to be a listener. Don't be the first person to say something. Don't be the person that you got all the ideas or you know everything. It's always to sit in something and let people talk. Because the people that'll talk will either talk about some of the negative stuff, or they're talking about them or their own teams and stuff like that. But what is our really key objective of us coming together? And how do we achieve what we wanted to do in the short space of time? So everything that I've learned from my previous bosses, what can we do? What can we maximize in the short space of time? And for me is the people that are really good at their job, and it was just these key people that that have actually helped where we are right now. And so some of the key success stories that we've had is that, you know, you've turned the team around. I said, I haven't turned the team around. I've just allowed the opportunity for people to come through fruition of what they actually have. And I think it's an amazing thing to, you know, to have and that kind of stuff. And I said, yeah, it's because, one, we had to listen and not be the first one to jump to everything. And that was the problem with everybody. And so I said, man, okay, we're going to show them how good we are. Yeah. It's
That's
cool.
common, though. I find it's real common when I speak to people, is that in their own workplaces, like, say, for example, you're a qualified sign writer, you're a qualified designer, and then they go into jobs, and then they're advertising these jobs within their business, not knowing that they have someone on staff. What cracks me up is like they say it's it's sort of like the process. We gotta advertise the job before we can elect, but they don't even make that sort of step to just acknowledge, hello, you got like 2 of them on the floor, like, you know, like within the business. So you don't utilize that person's skills or like what they've actually gained, you know, years of experience. It's so common, bro. Like, I work with a guy, he's a hoist driver. He's a qualified welder. He'd weld like, he did arc welding, but he's done every bit of TIG welding there is. And he shows the interest in the welding that's happening in the business. Like, he walks around and he goes, oh, that's cool, that's nice, you know. He's got a good eye. But if you talk to him and ask him what he used to do, he's like, bro, I'm a tradie fucking welder, and he enjoys a forklift. But he left not because of he got tired of traveling, but it was because the money was better, you know. And that's sort of like a thing. Like, you know, we get engineers who can't weld, so they'll contract their work to someone else, and they'll pay fucking way more money. And then you got a guy, just give him the gear, man. Ask him to do it. Just pay him a bit more. But I just see it so often, man. And it's sad. It's sad because, you know, the country's asking why we don't have the qualifications for certain roles, when we could fix it. We could fix it ourselves. Like, we don't need to look outside. But the dollar doesn't match, you know. The dollar doesn't match the skill set, sort of thing.
Yeah. No, but, you know, and it also comes down to what kind of leadership that we're also going to be playing a part of. You know, how can we influence good leadership? I've had so many different leaderships and stuff like that, and I inspired to be a part of what type of leadership there is. How can I take away their leadership that's really worked, and how can I apply it to what I do in my day-to-day jobs? So a lot of them was like, my very first one was protection. I had a leader that was very protective of their staff, and I maintained that. So I'll always protect, you know, the staff or the people that I have. The next one was you know, getting to know people and that kind of stuff. That's my previous manager then, new people, and so he got along with a lot of people, and people always used to go towards him. So I took a bit of that, and then I had another leadership who allowed me to, like, it's okay to work less hours. You don't have to work these long hours. But I found it really hard. I was used to working like really late hours, and then she said to me, nah, clock off at 4:30. And I clock off at 4:30 thinking, what do I do? You know, I'm just so hardwired into like work. And then I got used to it, and that's the type of lifestyle that I wanted to do, and I carried on there for a couple of years. And then I met this a young lady who became my general manager, and she was 27 at the time. Young Sri Lankan lady, was one of my best leaders that I've ever come across. She saw potential, and she was quite open about talking about stuff, and she was quite friendly. I used to always prepare for a meeting, because I just thought she's so smart. She's intelligent of the way that she does things, but had a lot of empathy for people. And I said, man, this is great. And so that was the turning point for me. I say, man, she's gonna expose me. She's gonna expose my skills that I had. And then she goes, what is your biggest fear? And I said, talking in front of white people or corporate white men. That was my biggest fear.
But not now.
Not now.
Yeah.
Not now. And she was like, why? You seem so confident when you talk. I said, I'm confident around people I trust. I can have an open conversation about that kind of stuff, but I continue to see corporate white men and women being too smart for me. And if they were to ask me a question, even though I know the answer, I'll just fumble, or I'm not going to say it right, or it's not going to come across. And if they did come across as if, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, that would have knocked my confidence down, and I would never talk in front of people. But so she taught me something. She was like, I'm going to invite you to the next senior management meeting. You just come along. And I was like, oh man, so I'm just going to ask you a question about something in the meeting. And I said, what? And I said, oh, please don't ask me. And she'll look at me and she was like, and I'm like, no. So I went to a couple of meetings, and then she just threw me in, knowing that I knew the answer. And then I'll just say it. And then I just got the nod from the MD, goes, okay. And that was my go. And that's where my confidence started to coming. So she would ask me the next question, the next meeting, stuff like that. And she goes, the next meeting, can you explain all this? And then I was like, boom, up all night just to make sure. Don't make it too long, just, a few key points. And then, and then they started like, this next minute, do you want to come to dinner, or drinks was happening? Man, I went to a few things, and then everybody was starting like, you're the new MD's best friend. And I was like, no, I'm not, just, and that's where it sort of grew. And so the previous managing director was a people's person.
Were you the guy in class at school and put your hand up and
Nope.
ask questions? Were you?
No.
No one. I wasn't.
I would always let everyone else do everything.
Yeah.
And I was trying to execute it in a way where you weren't exposed. I was just like, okay, just do my thing and just.
I wonder if it comes from there, like school days. Know how we're not used to answering questions.
It's surprising, man, because he's Elliot's one of a few guys that I saw. When I saw them, as like the way they were at school, you would never believe that they have their confidence came from school, and it was just more work experience, But it's crazy though, because I've been in my industry going on about the same time, like 17 years, and you sort of know, because I started from the floor, I started on the floor and worked my way up to middle management. But it's like, just hearing him talk about some of the stuff that he's dealt with at work, and it's like, man, sometimes it's like you get so caught up in it, you forget about yourself, eh?
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things that it's hard to sort of like unpack, because you've been so used to working long hours, you forget about, oh shit. Then you start juggling what commitment is, like, okay, now I won't go, I can't go. Then you become the guy who doesn't show up to everything.
Yeah.
And you don't even have time for your family. And that's why I always say when we get the time to sort of lace these, it's like, work is only a segment, like a snippet of your life, because you look around the whole world, and like everything you can do in that time, in 24 hours, it's like amazing. But then, like you said earlier, like 75% of it was just work. And it's like, man, but I was like you were saying, if you knew and you could, had the confidence to do what you do now earlier, shit, we'll be sitting on heaps of houses, eh?
Because it's like the boys used to like text, and I would never respond because work was priority. They were like, they're out in the town and that kind of stuff. And I used to be out on the town for these guys earlier, but then I got so locked into work That's all it was. It was about work, provide later, and all that kind of stuff. And I just didn't make time for the boys and stuff like that. And I regret it. But I wish I had leadership that could teach me how to utilize my time minimal at work as a maximum output in a short space of time. And that's something that we as people need to encourage our people, especially young people that come into the corporate world or any other, whether it be sports or just anything else, is that how can we teach them leadership in terms of how can we not wait till we're like 40 and realize, what we have to do. But that also comes with sharing a bit more about your experience in life. And that's what we need to do really at an early stage. And a lot of people will say, no, let them be kids. Yeah, let them be kids, but also teach them a bit more about our life experience, because life experience is a lot different now to then. Because our people will say we had more in life back then, and now it's really different. Okay, how is it? How do we make it so that we separate that kind of stuff and incorporate it into our normal lives? I try and do that, but I still gravitate towards work because I think that's where I still need to provide.
Because you're good at it. It's what you're good at.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it is. That's the biggest thing.
And you enjoying it?
I enjoy if other people are part of the success. And that's where my joy comes from, is them.
Right. So you're going to work for that success to get your joy.
But I think everyone has that. They love the challenge of work. Anything like that. Like, for example, if someone came into your office and said, you know what, if you can take this team and make it a great team and give you a couple of months, you're always up for that challenge. Just like if someone said to you, look, no one else can do it, but you can have a go, you're going to jump at it because you want to do it, and you want to do it, trying to prove someone wrong, or at least, I tried, they were right about it, it was a challenge. What I find is like the second you stop challenging yourself, that's when you need to reevaluate, but then reflect. And that's why it's really important. Like, I've only noticed, I only started reflecting in the last 2 years, like since I lost my parents. When I think about, like when I caught up with Mickey yesterday, we just reflected over the last 6 years. It's amazing what you can come up with, just, because, you have these milestones that you remember, like, vividly. Just like you remembered the first time you went down to South Island.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about it, it's actually challenging to actually try and recall the emotion and the feelings that you had then, because the responsibilities is always different, right? But if you can key point all the challenges, you can almost find that's your motivation. And simply, it's that. If you're not challenging yourself, the second you give up challenging, you're just about, you just free will. You're not living on time. You're not living by the clock.
And you don't want them to also experience what you had. You want to make sure they don't go through that. But it's important to share it.
Like your trip down to South Island.
I share the new stuff that comes on. I talk to them about my experience then.
Yeah.
That culture you experienced down south, is that still there?
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not there. I just accept people as people. Like I was never against Pākehā people. I always thought Pākehā people are just so smart and that kind of. And then now I'm at the stage. I was like, man, they're dumb, And what they do, not. I'm not saying they're all dumb. I said, but man, they do things this way, but that's a dumb way of doing things. I can say that now.
Yeah.
Even my big boss now, I can tell him like stuff, and I said to him, and we had a Tongan lady who become our GM. I encouraged her to become our GM, and I said to her, become our GM. This is one of the things I said to her, because you'll be the first Pacific Maori or a Pacific person that'll become a GM here at Fuji in New Zealand. And she was like, oh, I didn't think about that. I said, yeah, naturally you wouldn't think about that. It's just something that you just, it's a job. And I said, do it for our people. Even if it's a short time, at least you've done it. And even she wouldn't talk about this type of stuff. But as soon as I started, I said, man, I'll talk about bullets, I'll talk about that. She was like, yeah, you're right, and that kind of stuff. And our big manager at the time, and, he said to me, he goes, oh, man, that meeting was really good that you drove this morning. I said, oh man, you should have seen how nervous I was. I was shaking like this. And they're like, what? Were you shaking? And I said, yeah, I was shit scared. Again, all Pākehā people listening to me driving part of the business. And that you would never, this is what he said, you would never think that you were nervous. You seem so confident. And then I said, do you know what it is? I'll tell you the truth. I'm afraid of corporate white men. You know, he's a Pākehā fella. And he was just like, what? And I said to Lila, the other general manager, the Tonga lady, and she was like also nervous to back me up. I said, no, it's quite common thing for us Pacific and Maori to think that we're not good enough. And she goes, and he just said to me, he goes, it does not come across that way. I said, no, I'm just sharing you my experience and my perception of what I go through and that kind of stuff. And then she goes, yes, it's really common with us. Yes, it's for us people. We're such hard workers. We do all this kind of stuff, but we think that we're not good enough. And he says, you should never think like that. The way you took the meeting, the way you drove things, you just uplifted people. People want to join your meeting every day. They just think it's amazing. You're so positive. You're funny when things are really serious and you're able to crack it, but you also be able to bring it back to what the business needs to drive and that kind of stuff. So we want you to continue that. And so that's where I started growing. And just like I'm not afraid of anybody now, because it is business. The work is work, and I can just be myself now. Yeah, which is really cool.
Do you think that was the key right there? Just being yourself?
Yes, it was.
Because we were giving advice to Avi, because Avi's applied for a few jobs, and that was the one piece of advice that I said to him. I was like, bro, don't try and be anyone else, but just be yourself.
Yeah.
And like, because that's how you got the job in the first place.
Yeah.
You're the one who put your name, not a pretend name. Just be yourself. But that's what I said, man. Like, if you're just, because you're concerned for people and you're about the people, you're about helping people grow and stuff, that's rich, man. Like, anyone can aspire to want to, it's like, that good energy. You want to be around good energy. You want to be around people that uplift and like help you get to the next level sort of thing, Because, you don't surround yourself with the right people, man. You just be in the same spot,
Yeah.
You never grow. Like,
but at the same time, it's never, even though you got a lot of these negative people that you have to deal with day to day, that kind of stuff, it's never treat them differently. You would treat them exactly the same way you would treat everyone else in a way that like face to face. You just still try and support them as much as you can, because one day there could be a change within that kind of stuff, and you still want those people around. Because sometimes I think we never know what people go through. We don't know their experiences, what their situation is at the moment, and that kind of stuff. And sometimes when I get really shitty, and I don't really get shitty at work much, but there are people that I can share a bit of frustration with. I then realize, oh man, they're going through way more worse stuff than I'm currently going through. This is just work, and sometimes it just knocks me back, and it's like, okay, just peel back a bit and just like reflect on other people's lives, and it's like, it's just work. Yeah.
Now, I always celebrate when you see Pacific Islanders being successful in the corporate world, especially. This whole thing with the diversity thing coming into the workforce. I've noticed that in my job. Like, I think we've started to implement a whole lot of stuff that I've never seen before. Even with the reviews we do.
Yeah.
Like, now we've got this questionnaire now. We've got to fill out, and there's a lot of...
This is the engagement survey.
Yeah, engagement
survey. To see where,
yeah.
They try and tell you, they try and con you into saying, oh no, it's confidential, but you fill it out anyway,
yeah.
Then they break it down by teams, and then you get it to the manager, and the manager goes, I know who these negative
are. Yeah, exactly.
They pull up the sheets. They pull up the sheets. And
strategic, strategic,
Yeah. Another tick the box.
Tick the box, yeah.
Done it, yeah.
And okay. I think that's the way the world's going, so.
Yeah.
But in your job, you've been here 17 years. Have you seen the difference now from before? Like,
not a huge amount. There's not a lot of us Pacific people there.
Even with the changes and policies and that around the diversity, because we've started to do them in my job. Like, have they brought in stuff like that?
Oh, they did. They created a team They brought in like a governance team. They brought in sustainability. They started creating all these new things that the world's going through, or this government's going to change and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So every time they did this, they create something within the company, and so a lot of us complain, I was like, oh, here's us doing all the hard work. They hire all these other people to do all the survey, all this other kind of stuff. But yeah, survey came in about diversity and how we're performing, all that kind of stuff. And man, the document was like this thick.
Right.
And I had just started this role called Change and Transformation.
Yeah.
And part of that role was I was utilized for this role because of my connection with a lot of people. And so we were going to take in another department that was really difficult to deal with, and they were going to merge it with our teams that we had. And there was a bit of a hesitation. Nobody actually wanted this department because there were an older generation, I should say, an older generation who would come to work early. They went on breaks on their, they had their core group, and they were just hard workers, but they did things really long, and it was like they've always done it that way. And then they had one of the highest turnovers of young people joining, and I used to see like Pacific people in there, and I was like, "Yo, there's some Pacific people." I try and talk, and they'll say to me, "Oh, I'll come over and talk to you." And I was like, "Why?" He says, "Oh, no, it's we're not allowed to talk to people." I'm like, "What the?" And I'm thinking, these managers, these ladies, these older ladies that have been in the company for such a long time, I get along with them and I mock the shit out of them in a way that people would never, ever mock them. But that was just my personality at work.
Yeah.
And I used to like talk about how old they are, and do you want us to make sure the lift's always working when you come to work? And they'll just like but I would, and that's just the banter that I had with them. But I didn't realize what type of culture they were working under.
The managers or the
team
members of the team.
Yeah. And I was just like, nah, that can't be happening. Until we took over this team.
Yeah.
And then they just said, can we come and talk to you? They'll just do all the sneaky stuff. I said, oh, but don't come around and talk to us about that kind of stuff. And I said, oh, why? What's the problem? I'm going to come around, And I was like, oh, no. And it wasn't until I said to them, hey, can you give me this? Can you give me this? In front of their manager. And then all I saw was the manager like this. And then said, oh, we'll get it to you, Elliot. That's cool. And then I walk away. And then I looked up and watched, and the manager was honestly having a go. And I was like, what the hell? Then I said to him, come and talk to me. And then he got told off because he's not allowed to ask for questions without going to the boss. And I just thought, how toxic is this?
Yeah. And that's an old school sort of way of, that's
Very
an old
old
school
school.
structure. Like,
That's like working in the factory sort of.
No, I worked under a management that was similar. It was like, and so we had. So what was it? I was doing like an English sort of like right inside the business because we had downtime because like a lot of people English was their second language. So we got to do it. Like we got to do these short courses, and the old lady came to take. She's like a tutor. She came to take the tests and stuff. And then the situation came up. It's like scenarios were read out. Okay, someone wants to take an annual leave, but it's been denied, and this person has escalated it to the next person. Or something like that. Fair, this lady sat there and goes, nah, if their boss says no, there's no fucking way that they're allowed to leave. It is inappropriate. You jump over the top. I was like, well, who you supposed to escalate it to if you didn't come to a resolution? You got to get the union involved. And she goes, no, that's just protocol. In the business, especially in the corporate, when the management is, no one goes over each other's heads. It's like, so who do the big bosses answer to? And fucking, she was like going, oh, I think you're just being a little smart little shit. She quickly got personal before answering the question. I said, exactly. That team is just a team. They don't fucking own the corporation. This is the whole shareholders sort of establishment, the way it's built. Fuck, if I don't get an answer from you, I'm gonna go over his head. Fuck, who are they? But it shows, like, that shit's toxic, man, and that stuff's still around, man.
No, it was
some army kind of.
But it was for them, and the good thing is that in my role was we had to have champions from each team. And so the champions are to feed things that they can help improve socially and within their roles. And I said to my boss, I said, did you just hire me? Did you create this role so that it makes the job easier for you to help connect the people together? She was like, no, I didn't create a role just for that. I just thought this is a part of the change, and you're really good at it. Not that I'm saying that role is for you. I said, there's no one else is going to go for this role. And then she goes, I'll just have a think about it. So I said, oh, look, I'll just do it because I support her and that kind of stuff. But then it was a big eye opener as to what we actually really saw, the type of culture they were under. And the key thing for me was that I had a good relationship with the older generation. And then I also had a good relationship with new people that came in. And every new people that came into the job, I think, man, they're smart. They've got this new way of working. But they like a bit of flexibility, whereas the older generation don't have flexibility. So how do we make it work so that there is a bit of flexibility, also sharing a bit of experience that these people have, as well as trying to get the experienced people to hopefully adopt some of the changes?
Well, the COVID lockdown has been a good sort of time to practice all this flexibility.
Which is the great thing that came along.
Yeah.
Because just before then, we started getting laptops to, and so I had a team that I was looking after, and I made sure that I got them laptops, and I would encourage them to, on maybe once a month work from home. They were like, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah," because you and I worked together, or the team that I had, and so they appreciated it, and what I got out of it, they were more productive, and I thought, that's a good change. That's part of what we need to go through.
Well, that's the thing that came out of the COVID lockdowns, the productivity, when you have your mental health with you. Because now, I don't know if there's a big change in your company, but the big change for my one was that everyone does Zoom calls now. No one goes out to meetings anymore. Our meeting room doesn't get used anymore because everyone's on their Zoom call.
Yeah.
That's one thing. So less petrol, less travel time and all that, which is good. But I think the downfall of that is that there's even more meetings now. It's easy to have a meeting.
Just way more.
So there's too many meetings now.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to go anywhere.
It's like a meeting for a meeting about something, the same thing, It's like, so it's quite common now. Like, we have this big discussion, and they're like, we'll take this offline. And it's like, okay, it's another meeting. And I'll take that offline and take another. It's just like,
because it's too easy.
Yeah.
It's too easy, that one.
Yeah. Rather than just nutting it out.
So that was the change. The other change was, the flexibility now. Like, you can work from home now.
Yeah.
You can save power. You probably have to use your own power. People's power bills gone up and internet bills gone up because they're working from home. But a lot of companies, even outside, like, scaled down. Like a lot of big office buildings.
Yeah.
A lot of companies left their big offices and got smaller offices, and half the staff work at home, half the staff work at the office. So there's a lot of that happening now. So, and a lot of it comes down to, especially the mental health stuff, because while everyone's in lockdown, there's a big budget for mental health because the government, was trying to help the mental health side of things, people staying home, and then it led to like things like, now I've got more flexibility working from home. I can do like household stuff and get my job done. And now the productivity hasn't been going down.
Yeah.
Hey, it's been steady, or it's been going up in some cases, because people have all day to do their work now.
Yeah.
Rather than 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And there's the whole 9 to 5 thing that's come under question with a lot of people, especially around the world. And do we need to work those hours now? Do we need to, now that we've got more flexibility in time?
Yeah. I guess every company will have a different approach to how they adjust to flexibility, because it depends what their customer base is. Is it a 9 to 5 coverage? Is it something that they can work with after hours or before hours? So I think each individual company will take their own approach to how it best works for them. I think there's a company, I forgot the name, that tried it with 4 days. They went 4 days, in the office and stuff like that, and they had their first year they had a 19% improvement, and then they just recorded, I think the last financial year, they had about 29% increase into what they did. So some of the questions that I had for them was, how does the contract change? For 4 hours, they keep the same contract, their normal 9 to 5. So within the business, they said, look, we'll give you 4 days, as you're working.
So it's 32 hours a week.
No, they do the full 40 hours. So they might do their 10-hour days and stuff like that. But we're not changing your contract. And the reason being that is that if it doesn't work, there's no whole lot of contracts they have to change to go back to doing normal hours. Right. And so having that bit of flexibility to try and work, a lot of people adjusted to that. Let's make it work as a team. Let's not slack off, because otherwise it's going to go back. Yeah. So that's what the companies are doing. So they're making sure that we're not going to change their contract. We'll keep their contracts, but we're going to implement, 4-day weeks.
How about burnout for 40 hours and 4 days?
I don't think 40 hours is our norm. It's the minimum. I see it's a minimum for everybody, especially working from home. I see our people working longer from home. Even though we have the flexibility to work from home, there are other flexibilities that we're doing. But and I'm talking about myself and other people that I know that are doing that. They will, even though they'll do their normal hours, they'll still do more because it's right there in their face.
Right.
And it's there. It's just something so easy to log on. I'm worried because my daughter actually goes, are you working from home today, or are you going to work? And I was like, man, you would never ask that question. I would never think that she would ask that question. And she'll say that to her mum. It was like, oh, is Dad working from home again? It's like, oh, why is she asking that question? Because she sees it all the time. It's like, oh, she'll come and give me a hug before she goes to bed. I was like, shit, she's going to bed now and I'm still working. So we also have management that says they want to go back to back in the full time in the office, right, as well,
just for the interaction.
Yeah, because that's what people are actually missing is that interaction with people rather than just meetings and all that kind of stuff. Is having that face-to-face contact. But then there's a whole lot of people like, look, we made some adjustments to how we work and it's still working productively, but we also save money on childcare, after school care, costs on petrol and that kind of stuff. So that takes into account as to part of our flexibility. Again, I just think it's what type of leadership are we going to create in order to be productive. It shouldn't be about restrictions and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and everybody's different too. Everybody works different. Like especially the hours during the day. Are you better worker in the morning, or you're better worker at night? Yeah. Some people work better in the morning and slack off after 3 o'clock or after lunch, and then their brain turns back on after 6. Yeah. And then they can work all night, kind of thing.
Because a lot of people think, what drives our business, and a lot of people say customer, and I was like, no, you need people to support our customers. So you have to put the people first, and I remember there was a quote that was done by someone on social media that, if I'm the manager, I work for my staff. Yeah. They don't work for me. They don't own the business. They can just switch off just like that. If they stuff up, the bad reflection of my team's performance is me. So I've got to work for them. Not on the way like drive. I was like making sure I'm supporting them the best I can to get maximum output, for my team members and, to help us grow as well. And so, yeah.
I remember thinking a couple of years ago about the 9 to 5 and if it's going to change ever. Because I was thinking like, say we work 9 to 5 since, I don't know, how many years have humans been working 9 to 5s? But back in the days, Well, with technology, it's given us, technology has made us more efficient with what we do. So where does that stop? So say 20 years ago, you worked 9 to 5. Your production from that 9 to 5 is 10. Forward another 10 years with new technology, now your production is double that, because new technology allows you to do it faster, do it quicker, When does that stop? You know, technology is gonna make things faster, even more faster.
That's almost saying, do we need more humans in the world? You know, because we're going to create a society that has technology. There's always going to be a human aspect as to what we need.
Yeah, but that's when the AI and robots come in, because now they're going to be replacing people now.
That's if we choose to, if we allow that to continue to happen. And so we as people want to evolve into technology based, but do we create our communities to be based around human aspect of life? If we were to go rural areas where there are people out there that want to become self-sufficient in different rural areas, and because it's better for life and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So do you work towards that way, or do you work towards more technology? So for me, it's like, what can technology help me grow, but not take away our lives? That kind of stuff. So for instance, if I was to say to my daughter, I only want you to do X amount of time in life experience, and then only utilize technology to help assist, rather than how utilize technologies as to replace something, And so that's my biggest fear is replacement, because the experienced people that I was talking about earlier, that's what they're worried about, because we started getting into automations,
right?
But what we automated was, you do this amount of hours, but what we're automating is taking away some of those extra hours that you're doing that you don't need, that you don't get paid for, you don't need to do, and that's what we need to start educating people on. As we're automating stuff that you don't have to spend extra time elsewhere, whereas you should be spending your time with family, friends, and that kind of stuff. So and that's what I hope that technology will do. Will just take away, will only replace that aspect, rather than our jobs, our monies, and that kind of stuff that we need to continue to.
I don't think so, though. I think eventually robots going to take over stuff.
Nah, I don't see it in many industries, to be honest. Never happened in the barber
Because
industry.
it's started already, especially with
a barber, a machine barber.
Well, it's crazy to think. It's crazy to think, but there's a documentary on Netflix. It's like a food one. There's actually in America, there's steakhouses. You got robots doing the steaks.
Oh yeah.
Because they actually scan the meat, and they know by percentage the fat content and the meat content, and then they know exactly what a medium rare is, and then put it on the plate.
I don't see it in this lifetime, man, because
to me that's like
my experience in manufacturing is the troubleshooting, and you
need people to fix stuff.
You need people to fix stuff,
which is the human aspect of it. These won't be able to function without humans. To continue that kind of stuff.
I saw their port in
the one
in China. So only one person working the whole port.
Yeah, but see, they bought that here, and it didn't work. Key Street was full of trucks. Now they're trying to pull it down.
See, they're trying already to replace people.
Some things that the machine wouldn't be able to do. I mean, you still need a machine. Like when it comes to the automation and the touchscreen, you still need someone to go touch it to figure out what's wrong.
See, the key thing for me is that we allow it to happen, or we're going to accept it, because one, it's easier to deal with. Two, it can be cheaper, and so therefore that's how we tend to accept all those automations, those changes, and that kind of stuff. Not realizing, is it going to have an impact on what impact could it have on us? That
because it starts with the assist there.
Yeah,
like you say there.
It's like we start creating something, but people are so much into change things to make it easier for them, or they've got an idea and that kind of stuff, and it'll always be there and that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's the people that go to accept that change, all those things that come along. We can be anti anything that we can, but are we going to hold our ground and say, no, we're not going to accept, or continue to live the way we live now, that kind of stuff. So
when it comes,
Yep.
It's funny you were talking about like the food and that, but I don't know if you saw, I think it was when 4G first came to light via the television, like in the network, and the first thing they showed on the TV was the surgeon doing the operation on the vet on my dog, but it was via Skype. Did you see that?
On that, like,
Yeah.
oh,
So
like,
they got the cameras, they got the dog
yeah.
on the other side of the world,
Oh, and
and the
he's doing
surgeon's
that.
doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's doing it like via the gloves, but he's just going like this. But the machine's not in front of him; it's in another country.
Like metaverse.
Yeah, like a memory just came
Yeah.
off. I was like, "Fuck yeah, that's right."
So no, we don't have to fly him all the way around
Yeah,
the other side of the country or the world, and yeah.
But yeah, like you said, like I guess your business depends on because your customers are 9 to 5, so you have to be around those hours. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
There's no reason for your place to be open at 2 a.m.
Oh, definitely not. But yeah, all I say is that as long as we're supporting our people to assist our customers, and just creating that customer base to continue with us. But yeah, people first. Yeah, I love people. Yeah,
And that's the best thing for a manager. Best thing the manager should have for them to be a successful manager, to love people. Because we see on this podcast, hey man, like some managers.
You say it all the time. That's why I said, bro, you gotta listen to this, Dion. Yeah, but you're right. You hit it bang on the head. Some managers aren't managers.
Some managers are managers, and the reason why they become managers is because they're good at just so good at their job. They're bringing in money for the company. Yeah, they might do that. Yeah, that's a good reason to promote them. But what if they're not good people? What if they're not people?
Yeah. They're not people persons.
They're good at the job, but they're not people.
yeah.
They're the yes guys. Eh?
Yeah, they're definitely those. I see definitely managers that are good at managing their jobs or their roles, but when it involves people, you need to inspire them to want to do it and that kind of stuff. So you create a purpose with them. What is our purpose in life, rather than just what's our purpose just for the job? But if you're not open and transparent with them, they're just like, I'll just do it because that's my job, that kind of stuff. But when you got people that you'll believe in to do what they need to do, not just within their job, but in their lives and that kind of stuff, if you can have some small impact into that, you'll just get maximum support out of them, that kind of stuff. And that's what I've gained in this company with people. Yeah. But yeah, people makes us continue, even though I want to move. But these people just, good people. They deserve your support and that kind of stuff. So,
I got a question for you. Like, so I got a manager at work. He's shit, man. Like he's an engineer, and he's fallen into leadership management. He's got shit people skills, eh? And I knew right off the bat when I first met him. But you have other people that sort of joined his team, but they're out of their, they're out of their depth of like where he is, like because of his age. Okay, he's like in his mid-50s. When other people go and join their team, they then change, because they're around that sort of person who's a certain way. What's your advice about people going into your roles, like in the corporate world, like, or say, like, because we have it in our workplace? What's your advice on those guys stepping into those sort of positions? Do you stay the same, or do you act like everyone else in the office?
No, I always for me, it's to find out what my impact is going to be, and some of that impact is not their full roles or not everything that they do. It's something that what I can do that can relate to them. And I'm using one of these experiences where a general manager had no people skills, and also was put into an area where it wouldn't really be this person, or we don't think he's the right person for it, or he was appointed into this role for whatever reason, but he didn't really have any connection with the team that he leads. And so I was hoping that I'll never ever be led by this person, because his people skills are way out. It's just hard. He's got a hard line with things, and it's just his way, and he just doesn't see any empathy at all. And people will complain about him. They just, they took, he's from the original Scandal team and all that kind of stuff. And then he became my boss. Or, you know, I ended up under his leadership. And all I said to myself was, there's going to be times where someone will need you at something, even if it's not your area and stuff like that. But if you ever get approached by him, just accept it, because you're actually part of the core business. But just accept it, find ways to make it work, present it to him like you got a solution, and that's your core strength with that person. And that's where I sort of stayed with him. And he only spoke to me on those when he needed my support. And then there was a time where we never spoke other than that one time. But he rang me like at 5 o'clock, and he said to me, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, that was his approach. "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Yep." He goes, "Oh, yeah, I just spoke to this person. I don't know what the F he's doing. I don't know what to do and how to do it. But I knew what to do, you know, and I knew what I could bring. And he just like, yeah, no, I just let him go on and on. And I was like, okay, just listen. And then it just went silent. I said, I'm going to leave it silent for, see how long it'll ask the next question. And I was like, "Are you there?" I said, "Yeah, you can see me." Like on Teams, and I was like, "Oh no, I thought you hung up or something." I said, "No, I'm listening." And he goes, "So what? Yeah, so I'm just frustrated. Don't know what to do." And then I said to him, "Okay, then if you have no more questions, I'll provide a solution for you." And I said, "Let me take control of this area, but I need your support, because the ownership of this area is actually who he's pissed off with. But I need you to back me up what we need to do going forward." And he goes, yeah, I'll do that. And then he threw me in the bus the next day. Next morning, I was like, "Yeah, we got to this kind of," and then, "Yeah, Elliot's got to take over this." Yeah. And then the guy, he was pissed off. He was like, wait, what's happening? And all I said to him, look, I said, no, I'm not taking over everything. I'm going to assist you with what you need to do going forward. And so I assisted this person, and we started moving forward to what we need to do. And this person just, this manager, he says, "Man, thank you very much for helping me out." And I was like, cool, that was my thing. And so that's all I stuck to was, if I can assist someone who I don't even believe they should be in that role, then that's enough for me.
Yeah, because you just say an example for him.
Yeah, that's a cool story, man. That's solid. The reason why I brought that up, because I've told these guys, like, I've been taken upstairs and sat with the HR and this particular manager, and I've had him reading from the questionnaire to him eating my ass. Like, nah, you're too vital, too important. Too important part of, like, a key member of the team. If you walk, but that's a big impact on production, sort of thing. But then to get over, sort of like, he's got shit managing skills, but how can you just have an honest conversation, like take the manager's hat off and just see him for a person?
Yeah.
And I found that, okay, maybe I'll engage with him on the floor and just have a straight up question and ask him, "How are you?" And that's all I did, It's amazing, like, just him asking him, "How are you?" And he's like, "Oh, but frantic." And I said, "What's so frantic in your life that, because we're fucking making money every fucking second, And then he's like, "Oh, I'm moving house." And just prolonging that conversation, and like, it's an honest question, He's telling me, "Oh, fucking moving, He got a grand piano and it's in storage." And I told him about how I pulled my back just trying to move the piano. And he was so invested in explaining to me. It was like, well, fuck, he got that off his chest. Maybe he'll stop being an ass for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But that's just from me being in leadership as well, and then knowing, like, bro, if the guy's walking around like a headless chicken, fuck, someone asks him, "Are you all right?"
Yeah.
It's just amazing, like, you can just ask a question, or like, some people just feel like fucking they're drowning, and you can see them drowning there, like, they get drowning because, like, oh fuck, we're watching for that guy because he's, But I'm like, why doesn't someone just ask him how he is? Everything all right?
Yeah. But yeah. At the end of the day, they're all human,
Yeah, bro.
And it's just like, even though they've got a position or somewhere and stuff like that, you could just like, man, they don't deserve to be that. But we don't know them, like, personally, or that kind of stuff. And then my previous boss, I said, "Oh man, I can't stand him." And I said, "Oh, why?" And so I was like, man, his exterior is just so cold and that kind of stuff. But then she told me, she said, "Oh no, I had a good yarn with him. He's got a personal side to him." And then it's like, Oh, okay then. Okay, one day if we ever talk, then we'll talk and that kind of stuff. But that was my turning point for that. I said, man, everybody deserves to be listened to or be spoken to and that kind of stuff. And you just treat people the same way, even though that you think differently.
Yeah.
We never know.
I think the key to all of those leaders being really good people or being good leaders was the empathy card. Eh?
Yeah.
You got to show it, man. Because if you don't have it, if you're a heartless prick, you're the type of guy, if you died tomorrow, did he have to go? Fuck, I gotta see this guy, you know?
Yeah.
And that's your memory of them, right? But if you can just brush it aside and just be like, see the person for the person, not the gender, the sex, or the culture, and all the rest of it. Man, it's amazing, eh?
Because there's always another side to them, eh?
Yeah.
They could be this hard exterior person that they are at work, but then you meet them outside of work, they're so different. And I've come across a lot of people that are like that, which is really cool. And because I was like that at the beginning, I was really, if you wanted to get to know me at work, it had to be a year to get to know me before I open up or help you and that kind of stuff. And there's some older people that are just like, man, you used to be a grumpy person when you were back then, but I was protective. I was protective of what I did and that kind of stuff. And I was like, man. I was like, yeah, I remember that. It's like, everyone used to say, it's like, man, nobody wants to approach you, too scared. You're looking after this kind of stuff. But when they get to know me, they say, oh, you're just like a big teddy bear. I said, yeah, that was me back then.
Do you encourage businesses to do that? Like get like individuals and teams to go and learn, like know the person outside of work? Because I'm on that. Fuck, bro. I'm one of those guys. If I get drunk with you and I've seen how you act, that's enough for me. Like, nah.
But it's how you accept people afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, dudes at work, are they the same people?
Mm-hmm.
Outside of work it's people are outside of work because they're in their own element and that kind of stuff. And if you take that element back into work, then what you're saying to yourself is, oh nah, the way they're there is not going to be good here. And so, but if you say like, oh, that's the reason why they're hopeless or something, it's because outside of you seeing what they are, it's not going to be a good thing going forward and that kind of stuff. So, that type of thing. Because I was like that too. I said, man, I was part of the social club, but people would say to me, oh man, you're just like staunch, at the social club and all that kind of stuff. You only serve the beer and I cut off here and that kind of stuff. But they never saw me in a social aspect. And then when I decided like, oh man, I think I'm missing out all the joy that these guys are having. They talk about all this kind of stuff. And then as soon as I go and socialize, they're like, man, you're a crack up. You're so different to work. And I said, yeah, this is the other side of me. Because, man, you have split personalities, and that kind of stuff. I said, man, if people think I'm like that in life at work, then I said, man, that's not good, because I come across, I should be approachable. Yeah. But some of them got a bit too carried away. It's like, nah, you want to drink after work? I was like, nope. Yep. I was like, yeah.
See, it's funny because I see working, my work anyway. It's ever since I had that conversation with my boss when I had that issue ages ago.
Yeah.
It did change everything. My perspective on how to work is much different now than it used to be. Never get emotional about anything now. Everything's strictly business. You just read what you have to read and do what you got to do, and that's it. Yeah. No one should complain. No one should be mad. No one should, you do everything part of the process. Everything's got a process. You stick to the process, you're going to get things done, And, with hearing you guys talk about your personalities and that, like, it has helped me, like, take my personality out of it, It's sort of like being a robot, but not being a robot.
Yeah.
Still have your personality, but go through the processes and just stick to it. Don't get too carried away with, otherwise you're going to do stuff that's unnecessary.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm at my job for so long, because part of the reason is because of my boss, because he's the man. He's like to me, he's like the ultimate professional.
Yeah.
Like he's the guy that, he's different outside of work, 9 to 5, he's bang. He's the guy that gets everything done.
Yeah.
He's the guy that brings in the work. He's the guy that knows all the answers to everything. He's just bang, bang, bang. And then when you're having a beer with him, and he's a totally different person.
Yeah.
Like, he's like one of the boys.
Yeah.
But you don't see that personality during work hours. He's strictly business.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good example for me, and just like because I've thought about what you guys are talking about having bad managers, and I'm unfortunate enough to not have a bad manager for most of my career, but I did have one earlier on, and yeah, man, just thinking about how to handle that. Like even if I knew now what I didn't know then, even if I still stuck with the process, then all that emotional stuff will go away, and that bad manager will just be a robot to me.
Yeah.
And all I gotta do is just do the what's written down in the process. Like you're at work to do a job, stick with the job description.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta do, and be good at it.
Bro,
Like
that's the dime right there, bro.
Yeah.
If you're good at your job, you got nothing to worry about, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. And if that's what you're gonna do, then try to be the best at it, because that's all you're gonna do. There's nothing extra. You can, but just understand it's not in your job the description.
Yeah.
Like that's what you get when you get a promotion.
Yeah.
Like once you get a promotion, you get more stuff added to your job description. Do more, be good at all those new things that come in, and just keep on growing and growing like that.
Or they just say it's part of your job. Even though it's extra, that's part of your. They'll just say it's part of your job.
Yeah,
even though you're getting promoted because you deserve the hard work that you put in and your experience that you created. So you get rewarded to, get extra money for what you've done. But what they don't tell you is that this is the extra work, or you're going to get this extra work that's going to come with it.
Yeah.
And so I find it really hard when people do that.
But in the long run, I think you have it in the long run, because if you leave, the company will suffer, because you're a guy that's a go-to guy, and I think any CEO looks at the go-to guys in there and under them, and that guy is he's an asset. We lose him, it's gonna like 2 years to replace him. And when we say 2 years, I mean training someone up to get up to his level, because we're not gonna get that anymore. The more better you are at your job, the more leg you got to stand on in any job you're at.
Yeah, and I guess it's part of your leadership if you're gonna leave because you're doing it for yourself, rather than the people. So if I leave. So if I leave the business and they say, "Oh, you're a huge asset, you've gone," they're gonna what are they gonna do? But for me, it's like before I do that, I want to make sure the people that I care about have got all the tools in order to take over. And I always say to people, this person will take over, or I encourage these people to take over my role. So I'll give them as much tools as I can, so that it's never a burden to them. It just means someone else has moved on, and it gives them the opportunity to now step up, but they've already got it. So that's for me. That's the key thing for me to leave.
That's great leadership. That part and parcel was that if I have a day off, or if I'm not here and I find my way for a certain amount of time, this place can still take over. No one needs to contact me because you're already prepared to do it. You really got the tools and the know-how of how to get it done. Yeah, man, I believe in that, bro, because, I've worked under heaps of shit leaderships and management, but, since I've stepped into it, I've always believed in that too. Like, I'm gonna be the fucking sick and someone's trying to ring me. It's like, nah, man, you should already know. You should take care of that yourself.
Talking a bit more about diversity, I just thought of this. We've got a Maori lady at work, and she was in our warehouse, and she got the facilities manager's role, which I applied for, and this is the role that I wanted, and I didn't get it because they said they were gonna split the facilities role out to different parts of the business. And so a year later, this lady got it from the warehouse, and she got this facilities role. And I was thinking, man, this Biat's got this role. This is my role that I wanted a year ago. And she just slotted in there and got the role. And I say, man, she doesn't know shit about, what I know. And I used to help the facility manager before. And I thought I had it. I thought I had the job because I had the connections. I knew who to deal with. And my interview went really well. And it sort of indicated that I was going to get that role. Then that went on hold for a couple of months. And then they lined me up for another role. And I said, that's where the role that they actually try to divert me to, which is my current role. But now that she's got this role, and she seemed to be like just to herself, and like, oh, she's a brownie. You know, I was like, oh, maybe I'll just go, oh, how's the role going? You know, I actually went over to her and say, oh, how's the role that you got that I applied for that I didn't get that I should have? And she was like, she goes, oh, it's okay. And then I said, oh, well, just reach out if you need any help, because I used to do some of the roles that, you know, to help and that kind of stuff. And she was like, oh, okay then, thank you. I said, anyway, do you want to know my name? She goes, it's Elliot. I said, okay, just checking. And so just now and then I'll just like create some banter with her and that kind of stuff. And then I thought, oh no, I don't want to be mean to her. And then she said to me, she goes, oh, we should go for a beer after work sometime. And I said, oh yeah. And she goes, oh, sweet bro. I was like, what? Bro? I was like, okay, then sweet. Anyway, I made an effort just to go into work on my working day off, just to do some other stuff. And then I said to her, hey, are you still keen to go for a beer? She goes, what, at lunch? And I said, yeah, we'll go at lunch. She goes, what about after work? I said, no, we'll just go through lunch. Like, who cares? And she goes, oh, I've got to do something else. I was like, what time? She goes, 1 o'clock, no, 12:30. We're going to lunch. So I went to lunch and got her a beer. And then I got her like a shot as well. And I said, nah, she was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, and she started talking, and this whole time I thought she was an islander. And then we started talking about just like personal stuff, you know, that we're doing. Or she started off, and then I said my background and that kind of stuff. And then she said to me, oh, her 60th is coming up, but her sisters are flying over from Australia. And that and she's going down to Waikato to get her moko kauai done. And then I said to her, moko kauai? And she said, yeah. She goes, I said, oh, I didn't know you're Maori. And she was like, oh, yeah. And I said, oh, that's cool. And I still thought to myself, she's going to be the first one in our company to have a moko. And then I said straight up to her, and I said to her, did you ask your boss if you could have your moko done? And she was like, yeah. And I said, you biatch. I said, you should never have to ask that question. What made you ask that question? She goes, I just wanted to find out if it's appropriate. You know, and I got frustrated at her, you know. I was like, man, people that get their moko kauai done or their mata ora done, they're confident in what they're doing. They shouldn't need to ask for permission or anything like that. And so I got really like emotional about it with her, you know.
Especially in this country.
Yes.
Bro, straight up, bro. Especially here. What the
Yeah,
hell?
and I just said to her, I was like, you should have never done that. And she goes, whoa, how many beers you have? I said, nah, let's move the beers out of the way and just let's have a talk about it. And I said, at no point you should ever have to ask for permission or anything like that. Anything that belongs to our culture, you know, we shouldn't have to justify with, you know. And that's how she thought. She just thought maybe it wasn't
crazy.
she said it was just a courtesy just to, and I was just thinking, man, we still think the same. We're still worried of what people would say, you know. And I said, man, I'm so sorry I got angry at you. It just frustrates me that it's almost we have to justify something that belongs to us here, and that we have to ask for permission, you know, to have something like that. That's really significant. And I said to her, let me know when you get it done, because the day that you come back to work, that it's not, when I come into work, I'm not going to say good morning. You know, I would say it in Maori, and I'll go and we'll hongi. And she goes, oh, that'll be mean if you could do that. That'll be so cool. And I said, yeah, not hidden. I said in front of everybody. And anyway, the day she came in, I wasn't there. But the day that I saw her, I made it an effort to go over to her in front of everybody and ask her how you're feeling. And I was like, oh, everyone's been really nice about it. They said that's really beautiful. And one South African lady, she cried when she saw it, and she was like, it's so beautiful what she has. I said, see, I told you didn't have to justify anything. And she goes, oh, calm down. I said, no, I'm just stoked that you got it done, and that, you know, you can sort of don't hide when you walk around, because she was doing that. She was just like not quite sure how people will react. I said, man, I think that's the problem with us Maori people. We still have the perception that people will judge us which still happens now. It's on the news, and all they need to has is a news presenter. It's still been looked down upon, and that kind of stuff. So that plays on us Māoris quite heavily, and so that's where I find it. Yeah, it's quite hard to find people that would accept what we have. Yeah,
It's funny because only when it comes to diversity in the workplace, like the only issue I have with it is not knowing if I was a survivor that applied for a job and I got the job, I want to know I got the job because I was good. I was the right person for the job, not because I was survivor. Because you needed to have more survivors in this particular job.
Yeah,
like that's the fear I have with the whole diversity thing. Because I don't get the whole start at the top. I get like if we need more survivors in a certain industry, because there's none there, then we should start at the schools.
Yeah,
make sure these kids are going that way, not going sports and not throwing them to sports because we're good at sports. See, even that as well.
Yeah,
I know as Polynesians, we're good at sports, we're good at singing, we're good at acting, we're good at the arts, the fine arts and stuff. Like just because we're good at it, like I want us to go that way because we love it.
Yeah,
not because we're good at it. Because we might be good at something, but we might not love it. Or something like that.
I like how some of my workers accepted the diversity thing. Like there's a few Catholic guys that they've been doing the 1 month fast before Easter, and so when the companies put on meat, they put on fish instead of doing meat. And we got a few vegetarians, and they will say, "Oh, these are the vegetarian burgers," sort of thing. I like that aspect of it, but then what I don't like is that the assumption ones, like they go, "Oh, just because you're brown, oh, go, he'll show you how to do the job." Shit, that's the shit that pisses me off.
I mean, it seems to be working though. Like I think we need more brown faces at places where there aren't really enough.
I think we need to be a bit more confident in how we project ourselves. Right. Two things. There were always two people that I will never forget, and I became really good friends with these people. They said to me, "You're smarter than you look," and I'll never ever forget that. So I have to. That for me was, I have to show how good I am at what I do, because I would either one, which I'm correct in one way when these two people said that. The perception of the way we look is not the same of how we produce our work. And so I would always take that type of comment and ensure the people that I work with are never seen that way. And if they are seen that way, I'll make sure that we expose the skill levels that we have. Yeah, because it's still there. I mean, I still don't feel like I'm confident to go to another role without them actually knowing who I am. So there have been 2 interviews that I've been to where I wasn't successful. One, because they only see my CV. And then I said to them, well, how about you get to meet me or just have a coffee? I'll pay for the coffee and just give me like 10 minutes of your time. And people would say it's not how you come across on your CV. And that's where I find that it can be really tough for us people, and I even tried it with a photo on my CV, and you know what I got told? Your photo looks too professional. You look like you're going for a CEO role. I changed it to make it more personal, and it goes, "Oh, that's what your CV looks like." And I was thinking, man, we're still in that way, we're still hiring people based on a perception of what these people are.
The great thing about when I applied for my job at this place that I work at now is that I love that they had stages of interviews and stuff. 6 interviews and was it a university test that's got a 20-minute time cap on it. They don't give a shit whether you pass it or not. They just want to see you log into the computer and attempt to do the test. Well, what I love about is when I went through all the interviews is that all the questions related to the job that I was going for, and not once did they ask for the CV. I was like 9 months into the job, and then they asked me, "Oh, actually, do you have a food cert?" And I was like, "Yeah." "Or do you have this?" It's funny how they brought it up later, and it was only because we had an audit coming. They wanted to see the credentials of the operators on the floor. But it's just like, for me, like I hadn't had a job before that more than 10 years, and then to walk in, go through the the applications and then the interview process, and just slay it without even showing my credentials. Then they asked for it, but they were sort of saying it when they asked at the time. Oh, no, it's nothing. It's just something that we got to show.
Yeah.
It's just part of policy. But in my head, I was thinking, bullshit. You didn't even ask me for it. You ring the HR, they'll have it. But I just thought, oh, it's nice of them to ask. They just wanted to make the glass when you walk past the office look cool.
Like I'm not against Pākehā people. I still think Pākehā people have an edge over us a bit more.
Oh yeah, financially, in
they
a lot of ways, yeah.
And so what's called that white privilege, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that.
Well,
you mean the no lines?
But yeah, they've if you look at all our top jobs and our roles, our governments, it's always been Pākehā people that are in those roles and that kind of stuff. So you don't see much of our people up there. I mean,
unless you're the Green Party.
all the current government that's promoted all these people into these portfolio roles. But I'm just thinking, are they also just ticking the box that they're being more diverse?
Yeah.
So
I reckon they did with a couple of these positions that they last done.
Yeah.
So
but it also, I thought about that and I said, man, that's an opportunity that our people can thrive in, rather than, okay, let them tick the box. But let's execute those opportunities that we have in those areas.
I'll take advantage of it,
Yeah, absolutely. And just really show, what we're really good at. Because I think our people are such hard workers, not only manual, but whatever we do, we put our heart and soul into what we do, even though others may benefit it. I just think we just got to find ways that we showcase what abilities and skills that we bring to everyday life and that kind of stuff. So yeah,
I think we're great storytellers, we're great orators, but we're great at inspiring. I think that's one of the inspiring is like the thing that I think that we didn't give ourselves credit enough for. Like when I think about it, like went through like schooled here, but if you think about the stuff that's stuck and is just embedded in your head, like not many of it's done from like a Caucasian. It's usually someone Pacific.
Yeah.
Like I've always thought that, but just like, man, like we had someone on the pod who talked about him being like learning life lessons through stories, like if he'd done something wrong. And I thought, man, that's an awesome way of explaining it. And then the lesson was taught to him and sort of like a reflection. He looked over what he'd done wrong, and the mum always used the Bible as a reference sort of thing. Like hearing that, I was like, man, I could add that to my parenting, My kids aren't gonna get stuff.
Yeah, but I hope more, Pacific Māori get involved in corporate leadership more because we have a lot more to offer.
Are you seeing any out there?
There are heaps that I've seen. They just haven't had the tools and experience to actually execute what they do. I mean, I've only executed because I had good leadership. And that's what we need. So if we had more of us or myself a bit more, that were given that opportunity to help grow people a bit more into in the corporate world, that kind of stuff. So people culture is one aspect, but you need to inspire people to want to do it and that kind of stuff. So there's heaps of opportunities in there.
We got a lot of Polynesians that own their own businesses too.
Yeah,
probably more than in the corporate world, do you think?
There's heaps of small businesses. There's a lot of small businesses that are out there, especially for Pacific people. It's just the scale of it, to actually scale it a lot more. And I think that seeing some of them, there's a certain point they go to, but they haven't had that bigger version where they, to take it really big and that kind of stuff. So that requires a bit more investment into those people. Yeah.
I was listening to this podcast last week. It was Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. And they're talking about them because they're best mates. And they were talking about working 9 to 5, like because right now they're in a space where they've started their own movie company, and all they want to do is make movies, but they want to spend more time at home.
Yeah.
have more free time now. And they were talking about how what people should do is work 9 to 5, but only to make money to do what you really want to do. And that should be it.
Yeah.
Like when you start off, like know what you want to do, go get a job, just make the money to do what the other thing. Yeah. And I thought, oh man, if every kid knew that or heard that, I think things would be in a better place. Because we were talking on this podcast about kids that don't know what they want to do when they leave high school, and they get stuck in the space where they don't know what they want to be, and they just do all these courses. They end up finding out they don't want to do it, or they're just lost, and they're at jobs and they hate it, and they haven't even discovered what they want to be. Like that.
Because high school is, especially towards the end of high school, it's where am I going to go? You know, you're not quite sure where you want to go. There's so many different options, and I think there's not enough of these skills at work, like work skills at high school. If we incorporate a bit more into high school, rather than, you know, who actually takes algebra and all that kind of stuff to your job or the next job you're going to go to. And so if high schools were to say, hey, look, at your year 6 and 7th, there's going to be opportunities for, you know, going into like a trade that you can get your certificate in, rather than going into, you know, the workforce first, and you got to go through loans and all that kind of stuff. Is how do we incorporate it a lot earlier? And rather than just, you know, it's just a subject. You know, how can we just then integrate it into work?
Yeah, I think schools lack that.
Yeah.
And I think also they should actually find out what the kid actually loves.
Yeah.
Like early. Then you can know. It's almost like you need to treat every kid individually. Like you got to look at every kid and analyze them separately, like in terms of like what they really love.
Yeah.
Because when they grow up and they still love whatever they love, they can monetize it. They can turn it into a business or turn it into a career. Like this day and age of internet, social media, bloody gaming. Like back 20 years ago, we never thought that you could make money playing games.
Yeah.
You know. But you know, this day and age, it's more than just a lawyer, doctor, and accountant now.
Yeah.
Like our parents used to want us to be when we were young.
Oh, there's so much more.
You know?
There's so much more to make money.
Yeah.
Or to earn a living. You know, people become influencers, and they, you know, that's not a subject that you learn. It's just something that they're just taking out of their free time to find, there's other ways of making money. So I think we don't gear enough people up for the workforce that's out there. You know, at an early stage, we just go through getting bursaries or that was back then, whatever, get qualifications now at high school. But how much is that utilized in the workforce? Because what you will start to see, especially in a corporate, is people not also looking. They're not really looking at just your qualifications. Sometimes they'll take you how you are at an interview. Now,
And personality,
they'll think, okay, how am I going to work with this person? Is this person going to be too analytical for a role that needs to deal with people? You know, that kind of stuff. So that's another aspect of how we're going to start transitioning people into the workforce. Because I'm sure majority of us that thought that we're going to do this after school have actually gone to a different direction.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us have gone that, you know.
Yeah. I've sat on a few of those panels there, and I was like, how when you sit on a panel of 3 and you get the one guy, you know, you're interviewing him. I feel like my experience is like, you find that the one who gives the most like ridiculous answers, like, bro, this guy's got a V-shirt, eh? Like straight up, eh? Or like it's got a yes for everything.
Yeah.
Like the ones that are shy and don't know really how to answer, like sometimes like the interview is not the place for it, eh? It's like, it's just put them straight onto the floor, see if they swim or sink, you know, and that would generally be like, okay, if they're standing around, you know,
especially jobs when you need a degree to get in, because you put your degree on the table, automatically they know you've done all the work.
Yeah.
You've done the long hours, so they already know that. You know, you've really done the 5 years or 6 years or whatever, 3 years or whatever it takes to get the degree. So all that's just out the window. They just want to know what kind of person you are.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that's
what
it came
matters.
down. Yeah. And look, I've interviewed heaps of people, and there's other departments where they've asked me, "Oh, can you come and do the interview?" Even though I'm not even in their area, but they just want me to be the, do the people aspect of, ask the question. And most of the times I make up the questions, and the questions will come based on what the team is like and how they're gonna fit into that thing. Because people would line themselves up in an interview based on what their job criteria is.
Yeah.
But people will meet those criteria because that's why we pick them, right? But it's getting to know whether they're going to actually fit in, how they're going to talk, to us and stuff like that. And like some of them, I would, like talk to them real, and like almost like let's cut the bullshit aside, and like straight up. And I would do that on purpose so that the manager that's going to hire this person also knows what they're going to be like, because we will go in an interview and say all the nice stuff, and then when we hire them, they're the opposite. And I've been in a few interviews where I would have selected someone else.
Oh yeah, that's me too. Like how you say, "Where's the black card?" Which is the ace. And you do that shuffle, and then everyone goes, "Oh, that one, they're both wrong." And it's the one that you pick. Like, see, he told you, man.
Yeah.
And the worst part is when they land a job somewhere else or for the competition, and then like people go, "Fuck, that guy's the man."
Yeah,
it's the worstest one.
So the questions you ask, are they based on trying to get their real personality out?
Yeah,
And what kind of questions would those be?
So depending on the diversity of the team that they're going to come into, say for say there's a team in particular that was driven on real strict timing and that kind of stuff. Because if you say to me, if you say in an interview your punctuality is always on time, but you can tell these young people are not always on time. I would ask them questions like, how would you feel if you were to work different type of hours, even though this is a 9:30 to 4 job, but you were requested to work, say, from 10 to maybe 5, and they were like, that works for them, but for the manager it doesn't.
Right.
And then I said, well, how does that work for you? And the responses they would get is like, if I have enough rest time, I'm able to be a bit more productive and that kind of stuff.
And that's the trap, because that's something you don't want to hear.
Yeah, and so but those are the questions I think it's also good to discuss with the manager later on. I said, if this person has the capability of doing that, but if they're like, oh no, I do everything within their time, anything extra, it would I just take on board and that kind of stuff. And most of the questions that these guys have got, they're all written down from Google or from HR and that kind of stuff. So they stick to that, and then sometimes I just wait till it's really silent. And I was like, wait for an awkward moment. And I'll just talk about a few things. This is what I'll make up stuff like this is how crazy this team is. They argue amongst themselves, and some of them actually go on stress leave, and it's crazy. They've got this one lady that's in there. She's like a dragon, and then it just throws them off, But if they can respond in a way like how they would approach the situation, that's the approach that we'll take. I say, okay, this person will take this approach. Right. This will work for them, and that kind of stuff. So it's important that we do that kind of stuff, because we shouldn't create questions based on a general. It should be based on what's going to work with the manager and that team.
Specific. Like if a team's full of unders, you say, hey, have you seen Sion's winning? They say no, then you're not going for the job.
There's one question I remember from an interview, and I worked under this manager, and she was really good, And the question was like almost like a fob question, but it just cracked me up the way it came out, because it was the awkward silence, and like I thought we were done. And then it was like, just before we wrap up, it's like, can you just name one thing that you've experienced that would really like piss you off? Like, can you just name one thing if you feel like you would experience here? If you experienced it here? And in my mind I was thinking, what kind of fucking question is that? And I go, to put it simply, if fucking people aren't pulling their weight, man, she stood up, shook my hand. I'll see you on Monday. I was just cracking up. It was like, okay, cool. But the interview was shitty. I just thought, kind of bloody shit interview was this? But I mean, that was the kickstart into the career the life that I work now, man.
Yeah.
You know.
My last interview was a job I've got now. And that was back in 2001. And I remember I walked in with 4 people on the panel. It was the three people. 2 of the 3 directors and 1 manager. And I went I had to show all my stuff and all that kind of stuff and just talk about, I forgot what we were talking about. But then at the end of it, everyone walked out except for one of the guys, because he talked to me, because he asked me if I knew so-and-so, because he went to school with the guy with my last name many years ago. I didn't know who it was, and apparently I got the job because of that.
Oh yeah.
Just because of that. So it was like, yeah, it wasn't like, I think it was just a standard thing what I was showing. Like,
Yeah.
I think they saw a lot of guys with the same stuff. But it was just that the fact that he knew someone with my last name at his school when you went to school at St. Paul's.
Nice.
He went to St. Paul's in the 50s, I think. Yeah.
So I had one of these managers who said, I've got to interview some people. And I said, oh yeah, cool. She goes, I'm just going to put some interview questions together. And then, but she said, can she practice on me? Yeah. And I was saying, oh yeah, okay. And I said, how many questions do you have? And she goes, oh, the encounter was like 32. And I was like, oh man, that's going to be the most boring interview ever, because you're going to try and get everything, and then you're going to try and move to the next one, and then you got to try and read the questions, which is quite awkward, rather than creating a flow. And then she goes, oh, she's like, one of the questions she asked me, and she goes, oh, what would you do if you were to apply for this role, or you wanted her role? I said, first of all, I'll get rid of your interview questions and ask better ones. Yeah. And so I was like, what? I said, no, I'm being serious. I said, that'll be the first thing. And then I said, secondly, I wouldn't have you as a manager at all. And she was like, no, I need you to be serious about it. And I said, no, I'm being serious about certain things. You want me to be straight up? That's some of the things that I would say to you. And so we went through her 32 questions, and we just
32.
cut it down. Yeah, 32. And I said, let's cut it down to 8. She goes, oh, you can't do that. I said, well, who's going to know? Because you're the hiring manager. You're just going to tell HR who you've hired or who you. Yeah. So people are still locked into how you should ask questions or what questions you. I said, man, you guys should be creating an interview based on what you need. Out of people, rather than
a
following
general
a
for
system.
the whole. Yeah.
It's like, man, now I wish people would interview me, because I just be straight up about that kind of stuff. I tend to, like the last interview I did, only because I know a lot of the questions I tend to talk like I'm going through the questions myself, and I wait for an opportunity for them to like look down. And I say, is there any other questions that you want to ask me before you look down here? And then like catch them off guard.
Yeah.
And it's because I wanted to create a flowing conversation rather than, okay, what's the next one? That kind of stuff. So I created now an interview where if I was to be invited to help with an interview, one would ask the question and the other one will write down the questions. And so that you don't have to look down and all that kind of stuff. Otherwise, you won't fully engage with that person at all, that kind of stuff. So we actually tested out with our customers as well, which is pretty good. Yeah. But yeah, it has to be a flowing conversation. Yeah.
In your experience, have you ever met managers that have been school teachers previous? The reason why I ask, because I reckon school teachers will make the best managers, eh? I mean,
what type of school teachers?
Like primary school teachers or any school teacher, like, because they already got the management stuff locked down with the managing the kids and they got the empathy, I guess, already.
I don't want to talk on behalf of teachers, only because I'm married to one.
Oh yeah.
and she's a primary school teacher.
Yeah. But do you reckon? Because all the planning they have to do and all that kind of stuff, and working long hours and with the kids and.
As a profession, like I'm not skilled in that area for children. Man, I think they've got one of the toughest jobs in this country, primary school teachers, only because of what I've experience like with my wife. She's she loves children. She's got a lot of time for children, but there's a lot of paperwork. And I said to her, man, I'm sure when you went to get your teacher's degree, all this other stuff that's getting passed on to you every year wasn't part of your education or what you're, wanted to do as your profession.
But that's what they've always been striking for. They did the strike recently, yeah, like last week, I think.
Yeah, I think it's that there's got to be a lot of support. There's a lot of paperwork they do, and we sort of put this all together. Like we rounded everything up and said, man, I if you have a bad experience in how you teach because there's paperwork and all that kind of stuff, then it has to come down to leadership, which is your principal. So your principal will either dictate as to how you run your school, how you support your staff and your kids. I'm part of the board of one school, and I thought, kids have enough support, but there's a lot more support that they need, and teachers need to be supported a lot more in terms of well-being, because their well-being is out the door. I thought they do, 9 to 3 is their job, but they go home and take their jobs. There's personal stuff that they have to deal with. There are parental stuff that they have to deal with. And there's an emotional stuff that also goes along with those children as well. And then you dealt with staff and principals and how things are run. So I think it's probably. I wouldn't encourage my daughter to become a teacher if it continues to be like that. Although our kids need teachers for their education, seeing what my wife goes through, I wouldn't want her to go through that again. I said to her, what keeps you going? And she said, it's the children. The children need caring, and that kind of stuff. And that's what she continues to do.
And that's what you do just by continuing to go back to work, is because you're there for the people.
Yeah. Yeah. So in terms of management, the way they management, like I have a staff of 13, and I thought, oh man, that's tough. My wife deals with 32 kids and that kind of stuff, and all different, one. You don't know what they're going through, these kids and stuff like that. So they have to deal with all that, and that's through those whole hours of and
because the parents there as well. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because I think some parents have an expectation of what teachers should be doing and that kind of stuff. And as a parent, a board member, and as a husband, I started thinking, man, now I don't think the same way. I think I just need to support her a lot more when it comes to her job.
One of my kids came home and she had something that the teacher got the whole class to do, and when she explained it, it was like, man, it was moving to me, because the request was to get the class to sit in a circle and was to share one thing that they've struggled with. And then my kid came home and told me, man, there was a lot of emotion, a lot of kids had talked about family members who had passed away, siblings who had passed away. But just when I thought about, man, if you can empower your team and to be supportive, in a team environment, like for example a class, that's almost like the buy-in, like a circle, like I spoke about, like when I was at school, on the podcast yesterday. When you talk about the issues that happens in schools, it's not so much the school itself. Sometimes it's just like entities in the school, like little groups. But I thought, man, if there was one cool way to buy in and being supported by everyone, is to tell them something that you struggled with. And then that off the bat is like a good thing, right? Because when I found I was going through my mental health shit, I had to tell my 2 staff members that I work and see every day. Like, man, if I'm in a bad headspace, man, if I'm not talking to you, I'm more good. I'm just processing shit in my head, so I don't feel like, oh fuck this guy, what's up with this guy today? But I felt like when I got that off my chest, it was like, bro, work's been good, But just to hear that in a class environment, which is a school, it's like, fuck, that's powerful, man. And I think, like, man, if we can be more open and optimistic to stuff like that, man, that next generation won't have less worries.
Yeah, they'll understand that, or others will understand that there's similar
Yeah.
you know, to what they're going through, and then maybe they can reach out to those, you know, and then it starts growing.
Yeah.
That okay, there's actually more people out there that are struggling.
It's a creating that understanding and also just to help your peers and to a point like, man, if they're not well, check in on them and ask, you know. But just that one exercise, man, I thought, and it was never supposed to leave the circle.
Yeah.
But, you know, when you got a kid, he's like obviously emotionally upset and said like, man, you know, now I understand. Like, you know, they get it, you know. They're not gonna go bloody sit in class and mock someone about having no lunch or like having funny shoes and shit like that. Like, you know, because you think about all the stuff you go through when you're at school. It's like, man, a lot of it's like, fuck, man, we banter, but then someone had banter's undercover hate, you know.
Yeah.
I just thought, man, that's one powerful tool that if you were to take into the workplace, fuck, that would be one of them, mate. One exercise you could do.
Yeah.
Because then it removes the ego, it removes all the bullshit, and it's just like, there's a person in front of you, there's a person to your left of you, you know, and there's none of that sort of like, you know, filter that Zane talked about on his part, you know, removing the filter. But I think, yeah, that was cool, man, when I heard it. Maybe that's something that most workplaces should implement as of next week.
But I think if you start within, if you're willing to share that, I think that's the biggest step. You know, if you're willing to share that with people, then potentially someone else may open up, or they may share that someone else has also shared that maybe you can talk to them about that kind of stuff. So if you can do that, then, you know, that's a big step. And for kids to, well, even the school to allow that to happen, and then kids to, even at that age, to actually share a bit of struggle, that's massive.
Yeah.
You know, and that's goes to shows that what are our kids going through that we think is okay, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's something that we're doing or showing around in our communities, in our homes and that kind of stuff, that are having a flow-on effect to what we do with our children, stuff like that. But yeah.
I like what you said earlier on this podcast when you talked about how culture bring, like you talked about culture in the workforce. You don't really do it, but then with the diversity stuff, and it does change the culture and the identity of the workforce, of the workplace. Huh?
Yeah.
And you know, being us, you know, we know what that brings when we bring to that world. Yeah. It's like the family orientated thing. It's the banter. That will change. That's a big, massive change would be to any sort of westernized sort of environment.
Yeah.
When we bring our sort of flavor into it.
Yeah.
You know?
Because there's a few people who are actually Maori but don't act Maori.
Yeah.
At work.
Yeah.
And but I know that they're Maori because I'll talk to them about it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then in an open environment, there'll be stuff like someone will say to me, "Oh, you can't do this," and that kind of stuff. I can do whatever. Like, this is my land.
Yeah.
You know, this is my country. You know, I'll just things like that.
Yeah.
And then but sometimes I'll say it around them. Like if I argue about something, and then one of them will say, "Oh, watch this, he's gonna play that card," and I said, "Now that you said that in front of everybody, you and I deserve, you know, a bit more in this country." And then I was like, "Oh, you gotta play that card." And I said, "What? Are you embarrassed that you told me that you're Maori, even though I know where you're from?" And then I was like, "No." I said, "Yeah, you go around and show that you do motocross and all that kind of stuff, where Maori and Pacific don't do motocross, you know, that kind of stuff." And he, you know, he just said to me, and he only tells me when he's been drinking, and he goes, "Man, the way you just say things is like," I said, "I know that you don't want to show people that side of stuff." I said, "I used to be one of them." And then he goes, "Really? The way you talk is like as if, you know, you do this all the time." I said, "No, it took me a while." And I said, one of the guys that he used to be really close with, and I said to him, "Look, I'm going to share this with you. I don't share with a lot of people, but I went to a corporate event. So we had a corporate box, and one of the Pākehā fellows next day was speaking to someone else and said to him, and I was standing behind him while we're in the cafeteria, and he said to this guy, he goes, "Oh, how was the box game?" And he goes, "Oh, no, it's good, but it's good. We had this fucking Māori family not me, like another, bought his kid, and they were just sitting there like cheering and all that kind of stuff. And while we had customers in there, and then I was thinking, am I gonna say something? Because I'm offended now. But I put my guard on, like, no, I'm not gonna say anything because I don't want him to think that, one, I'm a Maori, or two, that he's never gonna speak to me or he'll never treat me the same. And then so I left it. I left it for about a couple of years. Wouldn't acknowledge him or anything like that until we had to work really close together. And I was thinking, man, I can't stand this guy. The way he talked about it, I'll never ever forget what he said. But I ended up, working amicably with him, and I just did the job. I executed the job purely because I'm good at my job. So he will see that as a Māori person that, we're not all what he thinks we are. And so that's what I did. And then on the very last day that he got made redundant, he just says, man, I really enjoyed working with you. One of my best experiences as doing that kind of stuff. And that's what I took away. I can acknowledge that, this is what he said, even though I don't accept it, but I don't know how to approach him about it.
That would have been the best time.
It would have been the best time to do it, but I thought, we're going to end it off like this.
Yeah.
Because all I'm going to think is that I done what I needed to do, and if he ever had his experience with other people, that he could say, look, I worked with another Māori fella that was really good at what he did.
Right.
And that's what I wanted to leave, rather than say leaving a bad taste, or if making him feel ashamed of what he said, because that's on him, it's not on me.
That's right. And I think him just acknowledging that would be enough to make you think, okay, at least he acknowledged it.
Yeah.
At least there's something the opposite of what he thought back then.
Yeah.
2 years ago at that box.
Yeah.
And man, that's an awesome way of dealing with people like that.
Yeah.
When people are quiet, people are like, man, you should have said something, man.
Yeah.
Let that slide. Like,
I mean, I share that with people, and they say, man, you should have done that. But then I said, look, this was my approach to, working with them at a later stage. I said, it got me down. It just put me back in that spot where I don't think I'm so good enough, even though I'm doing a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that still weighed heavily for quite some time.
That's, what do you call that? We call that like passive protest or something Mahatma Gandhi would have done.
Man, but
non-violence.
but just hearing you talk about that, like not sort of like portraying like, or letting people know that you're Maori sort of thing. But I do that at work too, man. Like when I see guys come to the space and like they show up every day sort of thing, then they might have a gap day, then they show up every day. But like, when you see potential and you want to sort of keep it, maintain it, and like try and encourage them to keep coming into work so they can get, full time. But it's not until you actually, because like I don't invest my time with people who I think it's not going to be there for more than 6 months. But then when you start, talking to people and you're like, oh man, there's jobs. If you can do the hours, man, it will help you, man. It'll get you moving places to where you want to be, if you just commit to the hours.
Yeah.
But it's just funny that, I don't tell people I'm Samoan until later.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh, so you Samoan. Like, mate. The thing is with our cultures, mate, is that we have the highest turnover of our people coming through here. Yeah. So it's like, man, am I going to waste my time investing in it? But I mean, as a person, you want to sort of, be polite and caring. But
those Māori guys that didn't act like it, does that sort of thing come from back in the days when we were trying to fit in? When we were, when you're in a space where there's no brown people at all, and it's just you're just trying to fit in. So we try and adopt their ways.
My experience with Māori people who are comfortable with being Māori, I've never had to worry about that kind of stuff. The people that are Māori or they seclude themselves as, I'm something else, like I was explaining earlier, we can see that. But I'll be confronted by people that that are Māori that'll say man, you're a plastic Māori.
Yeah,
and that kind of stuff, and that's sort of yeah, I am. I won't say it, but yeah, I am. It's only because I'm trying to prove myself somewhere so that I could be accepted.
Is that what these guys were doing? They think
these ones that were that I put myself in that category with these people.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, because I would only know that if I talked to them about it.
Right.
and share my experience of and that kind of stuff. And that's the only time we'll find out. Otherwise, it'll be those that are really strong in believing that they're Maori. Then they're the ones that have no problem at all. That kind of stuff. It's just individuals that choose to try and fit in.
Because the incentive for diversity is another way of trying to get over that as well, eh?
Yeah.
Like any workspace, any work environment, in any industry.
Yeah.
Like especially in the corporate world, because there's hardly any brown faces there.
Especially in our job, there's hardly any of us.
Yeah.
And there's
all 10 of you.
There's about 10 of us. Yeah, I think there's really about 10 of us. And someone said to me, "Oh, this person's Maori," and I was like, "But he looked white on his, like real white." And I was like, "Oh man."
Is that like on the screen things, like when you get emails and stuff, the little picture?
Yeah, they get that kind of stuff. Or they're on the internet. They were showing. I was like, man. But it's not until I questioned, because some of them are like, "Oh, hey, bro," and that kind of stuff. I was like,
I get it often, because my email doesn't have a photo.
Yeah.
And when people come into the work and they go, "Oh yeah, Lizzie," I was like, "What, did you see Smith or did you see Mossy?"
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, I thought you were the Filipino guy or something,
Yeah.
It's like, fuck off, bro. Nah, man.
Even the attire, because I know my work. I remember when I first started working. Man, it was shirt,
Collar shirt.
It was collar shirt, leather shoes, pants, and then changed. Somehow it changed, because our work is just casual.
Yeah.
It's casual wear.
We've gone to casual as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think it
can't
happened
remember
during COVID.
Oh no, I was there. Happened earlier than that.
Oh,
At the same time, the nightclubs went casual.
Yeah.
I think because our mufti days was like every Friday.
Casual Friday.
Other than it had to be, donation or something like that. It had to be like a mufti day and that kind of stuff. And then, our previous general manager, MD said, let's make Friday a casual.
All right.
But it's like dress casual, And I think, us brownies dress casual is not the same as these people who go to the race course.
Yeah.
That's different. That's how I pictured it. I was like, race course, type casual, They have
That's a smart casual.
Their flash jeans, because they says no ripped, no jandals, no open toe, and all that kind of stuff, And if you no shorts too, Yeah,
we wear shorts during the summertime at work.
yeah,
But
That'd be a luxury.
I think you're right, man. It was during when the nightclubs changed the time we changed.
But you know what's funny though? Like, like that washed look on clothing, like it was a vintage. That vintage look is coming back. The cargo shorts and cargo pants is coming back. Like I'm like looking at like my Kolo when she puts work pants on my son, in my mind it's like, is he going to work? That's the look now. I'm like, oh Lord.
Oh, gee.
But it feels so much comfortable though. You just see how relaxed we are when we do our jobs, especially if not meeting customers. But I even see now we can meet our customers with no ties. So that sort of came in. Our managing director, the third one back, that was part of the scandal, he was strict on ties. You're always presentable at work and all that kind of stuff. And you had to have it like real tight, that kind of stuff. But we're not all like Pākehā people where we have smaller necks. Yeah. That kind of stuff. Because, in order to button the last one up, you have to get real baggy. That kind of stuff. So that was tough. But and it's just started change. It was part of change, And so it was so much better when we were like casual. Some of them took it a bit too far and started wearing the old Skechers type jandals, and because they think they got little diamond looking things on there. They think it's just, it's like,
I love wearing a uniform, man. It's easy. Eh? It's like as long as I got a shirt in the wash, my trousers plus my pockets. I couldn't imagine trying to buy jeans with cargo pockets. like the reason why they cargo pockets is because you need a pocket for every but the tools, like the tools, your pens, manga pens and stuff like that. But I would like a more comfortable uniform now because we've gone to dry fits. But I want to get back to a polo shirt.
Yeah. Our business has adopted to wearing polo shirts from work.
Oh,
We fought for it though. There used to be surveys, and I used to say, wouldn't it be free advertising? We'd be out in public with free, with our logos on. Yeah. Next minute, are you an engineer?
Oh, man, the amount of questions I get every time I walk into a dairy. We're like,
Oh, when's your next order coming?
I was like, shut
Are you dropping off some coke?
Yeah, why are you dropping some? Dude, why have you got those bottles in our fridges?
No, yeah.
Sweet hoofs, man. How long we done that?
Man, that was a bit of it. I thought it was going to be like 10 minutes. And
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, even when they come on and say, oh, no, well, we're going to probably speak for an hour. Nah, G.
It's like karaoke. Once you jump on, you can't get off.
I don't do it. There's ladies area.
It's Larry's area. Larry's area.
Sharks, man. So what's happening with you next few months? Work and...
It'll be, full on work. Yeah. I'm still trying to line up a few people at work to eventually take over, that kind of stuff. So I want to do some other stuff that outside of work.
Same field, managing or different?
I'd like to continue, but not looking after 13. It all depends what's required, because a lot of it requires, like at work, the KPIs. It's just you spend like weeks and weeks on, that kind of stuff, and I think it's not an area that people have time for, because if it's like a 6 months or 12 months, you're supposed to measure them from the start to finish, but you don't measure them until it's finished now, so I've got to now remember everything and that kind of stuff. So that's me for the next week or so, is trying to work on people that deserve to go up to the next step. Yeah. And and showcase some of the skills that these people have to even hire people that are in the job, because it's starting to really show that other people that are in my team are go-to people. I've encouraged people to say, make a decision for me. If someone asks a question, just have a go. I'll back you 100%, even though I know it's 100% wrong. I'd rather you have a go. I back you up on it and just explain how we got to work through it and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's important that we empower our people to do what we can.
Because that idea of trying to bring in new ideas, how do we harness that, eh? Because that's exactly what you're trying to do.
Well, that's what I did with the younger generation. And we worked
especially
on,
them.
we brought in a lot of tools that they had studied for, that we were doing, that took us like hours to do, and we allowed them to do it in the background, and then soon as they showed us how they executed what they were doing, so we made sure that the managers that didn't have control over their improvements, and then we just enhanced their improvements with a team. And it had to come, the experienced people had to accept what has been done.
That's the hardest part, eh?
That's the biggest part, because they said, what about that? What about that? They didn't see how the outcome was. The outcome was the same as what they did. But they were too scared that they've missed a step. But they didn't see how, we ended up in the same results as you did. But they always thought, no, there's something you're missing. Yeah, and it's just, how do we get these people to accept it? They ended up resigning, all four of them.
Right. Far.
They all resigned because they just saw too much changes happening. They said it's not possible for you to do it this way. At the end of every month, they would work till late hours. And these guys would just sit there until the manager's finished.
See, that's a downfall of not evolving, eh?
Yeah.
Of the times.
Yeah.
Because I find with me, I'm in that... I'm one of them now. Because I remember when I first started work, man, I was the hot shot
You're
young
talking
guy.
about you're now the experience where maybe...
No, because I remember when I started work, I was the hot shot out of uni.
Yeah.
I was a whiz on the computer, doing all the computer stuff, all the old people still doing manual stuff. Now it's like reverse now. Now I'm doing the old school stuff on the computer. Yeah. And the new guys coming out of uni, they're like doing the new... Yeah. They got the new technology. Yeah. They might not have the experience to do it, but they know how to work it. And just like you said, like our industry has evolved a lot since I started. I mean, a lot. Now we're dealing with 3D. Yeah, we're not dealing with paper anymore. It's all on computers. Like, it's fucking 3D now. It's like space stuff. It's like, damn, like I'm still doing the I'm using it, but I'm using it the old school way.
Yeah.
And these new guys coming in, they're like the wizards, eh?
Yeah.
And every single program on their screen and doing it faster, but not knowing how to do it. But
Yeah.
they need the experience. But now it's at the point where I need to upskill.
Yeah.
I need to, but it's hard for me because I'm like, nah, the old way's better. I
Yeah.
don't want to waste my time.
Because we're so used to it, we know that it's gonna work that way.
Yeah, exactly.
And so what because I was hoping that I wouldn't end up like that, and so I would not pretend, but I'd show that I'm inspired by what these guys are doing,
yeah.
and I'll just like, that's amazing, and they'll just show me how to do it and that kind of stuff, and then I'll be like, yeah, you keep doing it, and it's just like, okay, and then young people that are like, yeah, I'm gonna do it. It's only because I just said, man, you're amazing. You could do this. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna make sure we show the other people that kind of stuff, and that'll keep them driving towards what you need to do and that kind of stuff. Because sometimes do we have the time, or are we going to accept to learn all that kind of stuff? Because it's quite technical. It's a lot more to it. And is our brain ready to continue with that? Or do we need to say, like, how can we adopt some of that into what we're doing, and making sure they're part of what we do to help us grow and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do with experience. It's like, accept what they brought to the table, what we have, but how do we incorporate it into us? Like, what can I take from that, but not use them? It's like, okay, you do it up to this point, and then from this point I will assist from there, but keep acknowledging what they've done. And if you keep doing that, you'll continue to move forward as a group, rather than they're gonna take over, because eventually they will. And us as leaders, we should be doing that. It's like making sure we're helping our people grow to the next step, so that we can move to the next one, to hopefully not retire too early. But that's what I'd like to.
Because technology is changing faster than we can.
Yeah.
So we always need to upskill.
Yeah.
I read this book about the future, and with technology, with new medical technology. Like, if you look over the years, this book says, if you look over the years, humans have been growing older and older and older.
Yeah.
And with the new technologies with medical, we're getting older again. And this book sort of estimates in 100 years' time, maybe if humans are still around, we can live to 150 with, mechanical hearts,
Or
stuff
artificial,
like that. Artificial stuff.
artificial, yeah.
But then the consequence of that is, do you really want to live to 150? Do you really want to work with the same job for like 100 years?
Yeah.
And then if you think about the upskilling that's involved, if you live 150 years, how much upskilling do you need? How many universities do you need to go to if you're living that long?
Yeah. Because our purpose will change.
Exactly.
Our purpose will change, because we have I think now we just like, we're looking forward to retirement.
Yeah.
So we know that 65 we're going to get the pension and that kind of stuff. But if you start saying, retirement's going to change now, because we can now put artificial stuff into it. So what is our purpose? Do we want to continue to be in this world the way it is? Or is our purpose, no, we've had enough of that kind of stuff. So again, I just put it down to acceptance of what we want to be part of. Some people want to live forever. But
but there's consequences.
There's consequences. You're going to lose people. That's another one. The emotional stuff.
Yeah.
Where you could potentially lose someone who you really love, that's going to die naturally, and so you have to take on that.
Well, that's another thing. Like, how many marriages are you going to have? 150. You want to get married at 20 years old?
Not just marriages. Not just marriages. What else?
But you know what I said? I've been saying this for a while now. If they make a movie about it, it's eventually going to happen.
There'll be no more blue
Just like the 90 Mile. Just like the 90 Mile. The Green Mile. The Green Mile.
Everybody wants to live forever, but man, do you really want to live? Do you know what that means?
Depends what comes with it. Hey, what do we continue to have that we still want?
What if it meant like you got to 80 and then you got to choose another soul to live in? Yes, please.
Yeah.
Elliot, bro, man, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for the invite.
Been awesome having a chat to you, man. Looking to what you do for work, and man, your story about the going down South Island, I was thinking, man, that should be a movie. Like, it should be a comedy. Like, someone should listen to this.
Surely, if you're listening, tune in.
So,
Man.
yeah, true.
Check some funny this way, man. Like, try and get something.
I reckon we should tell Sully to listen to this episode. Listen to your story and South Island story. Man, I will watch that. Make it a comedy.
But I want to make it really clear. I have nothing against South Island people or Pākehā people.
You just said it's based on a true story.
Based on experience, yeah.
Or make it a comedy. Oh, be so funny, man. So one guy walking with big luggage and see the little balangi of the suit in the car. Go, hey, man, what are you doing? Man, this is what I need, man. But we're going down South Island, man. I need all my shit, man. Jump in.
Chili burn.
And then you're driving. And then you're driving. And then you fall asleep. And then driving. And then the balangi goes, hey, wake up. You can't go see. Nigga, man, I'm trying to get my rest, man. We got a 4-hour drive, man. I need my rest.
No, you're staying here, but no, I'm staying.
Oh, hell no, I'm not staying in this shit. I'm going to the heritage. This paper, what says on the paper.
That's good. Thanks for having me on.
Sure, man.
Liddy's been telling us for how long? Yeah, but I was just trying to find some encouragement.
I just wish that everyone can listen to the snippet of Bila saying, if Liddy asks and he knows my heart, it's for a good purpose. The purpose is real, And I'm always going to give Cam's flowers, man, because like I always say, there's no one else out when we're talking projecting Pacifica view and Maori view from this side of the world. So yeah, west of the world, man, that's what it is.
Yeah. That was cool.
Surely, yeah.
Well, hopefully I can share something to some people, but yeah, I think that's the key thing for me when Faledi said it'd be cool for you to, to share a bit of that kind of stuff. If I talk about sharing experiences and not wanting to be on here, then that goes against what I'm saying. So yeah, I think it was just a nerve thing because I'm not used to that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, it's cool. I want to find another topic now. No.
I can't wait for the movie, man. Yes.
Can't wait for the movie.
You can play Larry.
Thanks, Elliot.
No, it's cool. Thank you.